The Spider-Man's attack struck Moreland from every direction, nearly simultaneously. He was surrounded, front, back, left, right, even above, every escape route cut off. So many Spider-Men attacking at once would faze almost anyone. Moreland's scarlet eyes swept the crowd, and a cold sneer curved his lips. Before the main course, some exercise with the appetizer always sharpens the taste. He licked his lips and shoved Deadpool toward Toby Spider, forcing Toby to retract his twin blades. Then Moreland launched himself high, leaping clear of Holland Spider's reach and out of Spider-Man's webs. He grabbed Garfield Spider's leg in midair and twisted until it ripped off. Spinning, he stamped on Garfield's body, vaulted toward Gwen, and sent her flying with a whip-like kick. Like a falcon diving from the heights, he surged at the remaining 3 little spiders without pause. He spread his claws wide, and with a single punch and a kick, sent Holland Spider and Spider-Man crashing into the surrounding titanium alloy bulkhead. Every Spider-Man who came into direct contact with Moreland found their strength sapped, their powers evaporated. Only Toby Spider remained standing. He shoved Deadpool toward Mr. Lion and shouted for everyone to run, then rushed Moreland head-on as the monster sneered and advanced step by step. Unlike the other 4, who fell in an instant, Toby used webs and the environment to dodge and counter. Still, he couldn't last a minute against Moreland, and that minute wasn't nearly enough for the others to recover. "Mr. Lion, why aren't you leaving?" Gwen stammered to her feet, panic in her eyes. Moreland heard her and chuckled. "Mr. Lion, is it? A hero who's not Spider-Man? No matter. I won't eat you. I'll make you part of me." He toyed with the katana he'd ripped from Toby and stalked toward Mr. Lion. "Is that so?" Mr. Lion murmured, forming a hand seal. "Sorry, Spider-Man's turn is over. Now it's someone else's." 4 golden Ceterac bands appeared out of nothing and snapped around Moreland's 4 limbs. Their chain ends passed through empty space and materialized in Mr. Lion's hands. Moreland tugged like it was nothing, but the chains didn't budge. He ratcheted up his strength, with fury swelling until he roared and pushed with all the force of a wild beast, and still he couldn't move an inch. In the end, he could only struggle, trapped by the chains in a wide, immobile spread. "Impossible! This is impossible! Where did you come from, sorcerer?" Moreland bellowed, incredulous that he had gone from unstoppable to a prisoner in moments. "It doesn't matter," Mr. Lion said calmly. "The fight is over." He looked at the Spider-Men. "I just watched you rush forward so passionately, one dramatic line after another, like the final showdown. I held back because I enjoyed the show." "You mean you restrained him, but didn't need to?" The Spider-Men slowly picked themselves up, stunned. They stared at Mr. Lion and then at the chained Moreland, who howled and strained uselessly. "Toby, he's defeated?" Toby Spider pulled off his mask, bewildered. Gwen pointed at Mr. Lion in disbelief. She slapped her own face, unable to decide whether to laugh or cry. Today had to be the most surreal day of her life. A Deadpool, a strange sorcerer. Did everyone from other worlds excel at dramatic entrances? After a long, stunned silence, relief broke out and laughter followed. My bad. I forgot Mr. Lion would be insanely strong." Holland Spider slapped his cheeks and sank to the floor with a goofy grin. Spider-Man smacked his forehead. "Right, a sorcerer who can fix a collider in seconds. Why did I think running to the front was a good plan?" "We're used to doing this alone," Garfield Spider said, limping against the wall. "All Spider-Man are lonely." Deadpool jumped up and threw his arms around Toby Spider. "So you need me. You need a cute, kind, and X-rated Deadpool to keep you company." He kissed Toby hard on the cheek. "Mwah! See?" Toby waved a hand, clutching his wound. "Go find the other Spider-Men. If you kiss me again, Mary Jane's going to get the wrong idea when she sees the lipstick." "You don't love me anymore," Deadpool yelped. "Just now you said all Spider-Men love me." He swept a dramatic gaze across the room. "And you, and you, and you. How could you confess to me in the middle of a fight? It nearly broke my heart because it didn't have time to receive so much love." Then he made a cheesy heart at Gwen. "And Spider-Woman, I love you too, just a little less than my love for Peter." All the Spider-Men rolled their eyes. "He was just saying that to save you," Spider-Man muttered, then stepped forward. "So what do we do with this guy?" "Leave him to me." A wristband slid onto Mr. Lion's arm, black light clone, manifesting from his inner world, mimicking and forming into being. He extended his hand, and a black, red-glowing, fleshy tentacle shot out and pierced Moreland's chest. Moreland, still furious and yelling threats, glared down. "You bringing me dinner?" By the time he finished speaking, the tentacle was already feeding. It quickly began to consume and assimilate him. Moreland's flesh was absorbed into a pulsing orb at the end of the appendage. Within seconds, it shrank. The tentacle retracted and merged back into the wristband. "Done. Without a trace," Mr. Lion said, holding up the wristband. "Even if he revives, he won't be able to track us through his physical body." "Wait, revive? Moreland can come back?" Gwen asked, astonished. "That was my biological partner, similar to a symbiote," Mr. Lion explained. "Symbiote?" Toby Spider rose to his feet. "Those things amplify certain emotions in a host. Be careful, Mr. Lion." "Mine's a little different." Mr. Lion's wristband sprouted several tentacles that attached themselves to the injured Spider-Men. Waves of warm, healing energy flowed out. After a few breaths, the little spiders were healed. "See? It can mend wounds too." "That's some kind of eternal-style healing," Garfield said. "This is definitely different." Toby flexed his limbs in amazement and thanked Mr. Lion. Deadpool leapt and clung to Mr. Lion. "What about me? You can't leave me behind, Harry Potter. Deadpool needs healing too, and I'll pay you back with kisses." "Get off me." Mr. Lion shoved Deadpool away, earning a round of applause from the Spider-Men. Lion's voice turned serious. "As for your other question, yes, Moreland can revive. To be precise, every member of the Inheritor family can. They've got cloning factories in their own worlds and memory crystals that store who they are," he explained. "When they die, they can be reborn back home. So even if this Moreland dies here, he could come sweeping through again." Mr. Lion shrugged. "Besides, he can travel between worlds by other means. A multiverse full of Spider-Men is an irresistible feast to an Inheritor." "How do we even stop that?" Gwen fell silent. The Spider-Men thought for a moment. "Moreland found his way here through the spatial passage the Collider opened," Spider-Man said. "If we don't activate the Collider again, maybe it'll be hard for him to find this place." "That's possible," Mr. Lion agreed, dumping Deadpool, who had flopped on him, onto the floor. "Then we shouldn't activate the Collider again." "But we still have to get home," Holland Spider said. "We can't stay in this universe forever." "Maybe we open it briefly and jump back right away," Toby suggested, leaning against the wall. "But there's always a risk." They all frowned, weighing the danger. Then Deadpool sprang up with a flourish, producing a tablet-shaped device. "Ta-da! Now is the time to rely on the Deadpool who loves you most. Look what this is!" The dog-headed gold tablet spun in Deadpool's hand. He crouched, holding it up like a prize for everyone to see. "What is this?" Nobody thought it could be anything good. To them, it was just Deadpool showing off, same as always. Important moment or not, he never stopped clowning. Nonsense buzzed out of his mouth like a fly. Leon thought so at first, too. He'd been weighing whether to send the little spiders back to their own universes one by one, or to use the chance to peek into other parallel worlds. Then his gaze flicked over the tablet in Deadpool's hand and jerked back. Something felt wrong. Leon turned and looked closely at the tablet Deadpool kept spinning with elbow, shoulder, and head. A strong sense of déjà vu woke up in him. The last time he'd seen a device like this was on the TV show Loki. It was a TVA tablet, the kind the Time Variance Authority used to move between timelines and worlds. The memory clicked into place, and Leon straightened a few inches, suddenly serious. After a few more glances, he was sure. That tablet was the TVA kind. But where had Deadpool gotten a time-space tablet? Had this Deadpool gone to the TVA and stolen one? In a multiverse with near-infinite universes, anything was possible. Leon's knowledge of the MCU stopped at Captain Marvel 2. He hadn't kept up with everything that came after. So he asked plainly, "That's a TVA time tablet, right? Did you join the TVA, or did you steal it?" "Huh?" The Spider-Men perked up at once. "What time tablet?" Gwen followed Leon's gaze and saw the spinning gadget tucked against Deadpool's upturned butt. "You mean that tablet? Is Deadpool actually serious this time?" Holland Spider blinked. "Time? That sounds amazing. Can it send us back?" Spider-Man scratched his head. Deadpool's face got serious for a beat, and the others watched him with mixed suspicion and curiosity. Quietly, Spider-Man shot a web to snatch the tablet from Deadpool's backside. But Deadpool, wiggle-happy, spun and grabbed it first, holding it aloft. Behold Deadpool's genius. The web followed its original path and slapped him right in the crotch with a satisfying thwip. Oh, Deadpool let out a dramatic noise, swayed his hips a couple times, then pinched 2 fingers to his lips and blew a kiss at Spider-Man. My little Peter, I feel your passion. Come on, be rougher. It's not my first time. Spider-Man recoiled like he'd touched something gross. He flicked his hand to get rid of the web and swung away like a man possessed, landing on the dome furthest from Deadpool. Hey, where are you going? If you don't want to be forward, I can take the lead. Deadpool called after him. The Spider-Men shut up, sweat beading on their brows. Leon coughed lightly. He felt oddly relieved he wasn't named Peter. You still haven't answered my question. Deadpool, where did you get that time tablet? Deadpool, who had been mugging and twerking, grew suddenly earnest. That's a good question. He pointed at Leon. That's a goddamn good question. Harry Potter. It's Leon, thank you, Leon muttered. He was usually chatty, but around a room full of Spider-Men and Deadpool, he felt small and quiet. Deadpool turned his back with mock solemnity. In my story, you're Harry Potter, Leon, and my story begins a long, long time ago. How long? The little Peter in Leon's arms perked up. Are we telling a story now? He'd had his ears covered with Leon's hand and hadn't been following. Deadpool brightened when he heard the child's voice. Of course we are. A very, very long story. He spun back around. I almost forgot. We still have our cute little Peter here. He softened his voice when he looked at the boy. Okay, story time. Deadpool cleared his throat and struck a pose, holding up a finger. Everyone, one last time. My name is Wade Winston Wilson. A familiar opening. Deadpool was copying the little spider again. In the beginning, I was bitten by a chimichanga named Francis. And so, in less than 10 years, I became the unkillable superhero Deadpool. Francis's torture awakened Deadpool's healing factor. He spread his arms and waited for applause. Only little Peter clapped enthusiastically. Deadpool beamed, spun around, blew kisses, and made hearts at him. Then he continued, while the other Spider-Men stared in varying degrees of disbelief. You all know what happened next, he said. I was scared to face Vanessa because my face turned into a chimichanga, totally disfigured, after Francis bit me. But in the end, I beat the chimichanga and reunited with Vanessa. I swear I must have kissed God's butt in my last life. Vanessa actually took me back. She still loves me. And then we lived happily bleep, 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 bleep. Leon covered little Peter's ears again without expression. But later, Vanessa died because of me. Deadpool's face went suddenly sad. Luckily, after some blah 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 in between, Cable, gave me a little thing that could travel through time. After it was fixed, I went back and saved Vanessa. And then we kept bleeping, bleeping, bleeping. Later, I started nonstop time hopping. I killed Ryan Reynolds, Hitler, Deadpool. Oh, another Deadpool. Everything was going great, but then my life hit some bumps. I tried to join the Avengers, but Happy wouldn't hear of it. That guy whose superpower is parallel parking wouldn't even buy me a burger. God, Deadpool punched the air. Oh, I just remembered. I saw a Hulk statue in the Avengers office doing the most inappropriate thing. He trailed off, grinning at the horrified faces around him. The little boy giggled, enthralled. The rest of them wondered whether they'd accidentally wandered into the world's strangest bedtime story. Chapter 243. Anchorman Deadpool talked at breakneck speed. He didn't give little Spider or Leon a chance to interrupt. He just kept going like a runaway train. Before anyone could catch up, he'd already zipped through the first half of his life story. The little Spiders looked baffled. Leon felt like he was watching a familiar movie unfold. From Deadpool's self-introduction, he pieced together that this was the Deadpool from the Fox film universe. Crossovers between the Fox universe and Marvel weren't unheard of. But how had this version ended up at the TVA? Had the Fox universe merged completely with Marvel? Well, that would solve the Quicksilver bullet problem at least. Deadpool kept talking. You can't imagine how devastated I was after the Avengers kicked me out. Oh, and in case you want to look me up later, my world is Earth 1005. Don't forget that name. After I got back, I started selling cars with Peter, my exclusive Peter. He leaned in, dramatic, because only I can use his talents. When I was selling those cars, what a bunch of limp junk, they made me miserable. Only Peter could cheer me up. He paused and grew theatrical. But still, something was missing from my life. I was lost. I was in pain. Then I broke up with Vanessa. Damn it, I lost Vanessa. She even told me she'd found someone new. Okay, pause. We can talk about Vanessa later. Where's the time pad? What's going on with it? Leon cut in, anxious to get to the point. Deadpool blinked. What? I lost Vanessa. Don't you think that's tragic? She's your Vanessa, not mine. Why should I feel bad? Am I supposed to help you teach this new boyfriend a lesson? Leon said, then slapped his palm to his forehead as he realized the influence. He was turning into a mess of Deadpool-style ranting, too. God, that is a good idea, he muttered. Deadpool grinned and gave a thumbs up. You kick his balls, I'll take care of his sword, and then... Gwen suddenly cleared her throat loudly and put on her mask. And then, she said, coughing, her face hidden beneath the mask as she tried to steer the conversation back. Deadpool caught himself. Talking about Vanessa in front of the Peters, well, that would have been a disaster, so he switched topics smoothly. Right, so TVA. They came knocking on my door on my birthday. They gave me a tour of TVA headquarters, he continued. Then a supervisor with a London accent showed up. He called himself Mr. Paradox, invited me to join the TVA, said I could become the Marvel savior. He even showed me the future. In the future, Thor is bawling his eyes out, holding me. Oh my God, my Thor cried so hard I wanted to. He choked up for dramatic effect. I had to believe him. I was clearly the Marvel savior. But that London accent, Deadpool's face soured. He told me my universe was on the verge of destruction because it had lost its anchor person, the Wolverine whose claws are already coated in microscopic X fluid. He got agitated and started rummaging on the ground until he found a piece of collider debris. He picked it up, gave it 2 mock punches like he was hitting Mr. Paradox, then hopped around holding his fists. Wait, anchor person? What's that? Leon sifted through the barrage of jokes and noise, trying to extract the important parts. He'd never heard of an anchor person setting before. Had he leapt into yet another unfamiliar corner of Marvel? Anchor person? He asked. Deadpool wrapped his little fist in a mock comforting gesture and explained in his usual blunt way. The anchor person is the sensitive spot that keeps a world together. Without it, everything goes soft and falls apart. You don't have one. You go dim and he made several bleeps and gestures. And you can't do the things you used to do. You won't be able to make people happy anymore. Leon got it immediately. He rolled his eyes at Deadpool's colorful metaphors, but he glanced at the little spiders beside him. They were crouched, masked, and just as confused. Leon felt a pang of regret that he'd understood right away. His superbrain had made it too easy. So an anchor person is the core of a world. If the anchor person is lost, the world experiences anomalies and could even be destroyed, he said, translating Deadpool's crude explanation into plain language. Why are you repeating it? Deadpool asked indignantly. And you do it less entertainingly than I did, Leon sighed inwardly. Okay, I understand what an anchor person is. What happened next? Did you go after Mr. Paradox and tear him to pieces? No, Deadpool looked affronted. Disney doesn't let me be that gory. Disney? Leon's mouth twitched. So the fourth wall was still very much present. You're not from Fox? He asked. Don't say Fox to me. I'm a Marvel guy now. Deadpool cried, raising a righteous hand. Don't get me mixed up with Fox. Leon nodded slowly. It seemed the Fox X-Men stuff had been folded into the wider Marvel cinematic mythos in whatever timeline they were in. Keep going, he said. Mr. Paradox told me my universe would be destroyed, eventually, in a few thousand years, Deadpool continued. Which sounds like forever, right? Who lives that long? Unless you're some mutant who can live in the air or something. But Mr. Paradox didn't want to wait around. He decided to speed things up. He planned to wipe out my universe in 2 days with a Fiji cup. Deadpool flailed his arms for emphasis. I went insane, so I swiped his pad, the one he uses to control things, and I ran. I left those TVA clerks, who were totally ogling me, behind and went hunting for Wolverine. He started counting off on his fingers. I dug up every Wolverine's place I could find. Little Dwarf Wolverine, One-Eyed Wolverine, Old Man Wolverine, Superman Wolverine. Eventually, I found the one I thought would work. He puffed out his chest. I brought him back to the TVA so he could replace the missing anchor person in my universe. But that London-accented Mr. Paradox, Ugh, I'm pretty sure he hasn't used his vowels properly in decades, otherwise he wouldn't be so gross. Anyway, he told me the Wolverine I found couldn't be the new anchor person. Deadpool growled. I was ready to punch him again when suddenly a tiny black hole sucked me here. He sighed dramatically. That was definitely the smallest black hole I've ever seen. It's so tight it could turn a person into a cream puff. By the time it spat me back out onto the streets of New York, my balls were as exhausted as if they'd been fighting for 3 days and 3 nights. But don't worry. The moment I saw you guys, they came right back to life. You don't need to worry about my stamina. Deadpool patted his lower back. Even the Spider-Men, who had been trying to keep a low profile, couldn't help but roll their eyes. Who cares about your stamina? I've had enough of this. Don't stop me. I'm going to pin this guy to the wall and clean his mouth out with disinfectant. Wait, hold on. That tablet can travel between worlds, right? We can go back to our own worlds now. Holland Spider's words snapped every Spider-Man to attention. They exchanged looks, and all turned to Deadpool, who was leaning against the ruined collider wall with one hand, shaking the time tablet in the other. You want to go home, he drawled. Deadpool is always patient. He waits till every little Peter gets tucked into bed at home. All you have to do is give me each. Now. Deadpool didn't even get to finish before the little spiders exploded into motion. 5 Spider-Men shot web lines and closed in on him the way they'd surrounded Moreland earlier. Deadpool yelped, dodging left and right, running in tight little circles. No, it's my first time. You can't be so rough. It has to start with a gentle kiss. He shouted filthy nonsense as he ran, ducking under swinging webs and slipping between the encirclement of 2 Spider-Men. Spider-Man kicked at air, annoyed. You just said it wasn't your first time. Oh my God. Deadpool slapped a hand over his mouth. Damn it, I let it slip. But it still counts as my first time today. It'll be as rich as butter-splashed cheese sauce. The lab was chaos. Debris from the collider lay everywhere as Deadpool zigzagged through, the Spider-Men in hot pursuit. Finally, he was stuck to a wall under a mass of webbing. Holland Spider stomped up, shoved a wad of web over Deadpool's mouth, and snatched the time tablet. Is this TVA tech? It doesn't look very advanced. Garfield Spider and the others peered over his shoulder. It can travel worlds and it's not advanced? I mean the look of it, Holland said. It resembles an old capacitive screen phone. He tapped through the interface. Okay, this button is back. This is a timeline directory? So many worlds. Strings of world codes filled the screen. The MCU 616 series universes under the sacred timeline appeared, and also Variant Universe 1005, Deadpool's home. For reference, the movie main universe is 199999. The comics main universe is usually called Earth 6 and 16. All right, retrieve, confirm, then open the space-time gate, Holland muttered, and pressed the buttons, expecting a portal to yaw open. Nothing happened. The air in front of them was the same, only dust motes and damaged lab lights. Did you not press confirm? Garfield asked. I did, but it's not responding, Holland said, tapping the glass harder. It stayed unresponsive. Even a hard slap did nothing. Could it need a password? Garfield tried fiddling with it, then Toby and the others took turns. After a few minutes, the mood went cold. Either the time tablet is broken, one of them said, or Deadpool swiped a fake. Impossible. Deadpool somehow wriggled free of the web, wormed himself between Garfield and Toby, and grabbed the tablet back. I literally used this to find Wolverine, the one Londoners call the most disappointing Logan. He started operating the tablet himself, fingers flying across the screen. That's it, he shouted. Nothing. A silence like wind through autumn leaves swallowed the lab. The little spiders stared at him. Deadpool's hands slowed, then sped up again. He glanced left and right, then tossed the tablet behind him with a casual flourish. What was I saying? Oh, right, when I'm crashing at Peter's tonight, which Peter do I get to share a bed with? Garfield, I like Garfield best. Actually, it'd be better if we all slept in the same bed. The little spiders stared blankly. It dawned on them. Deadpool had changed the subject because the tablet was in fact dead in their hands. Hope drained from their faces like water from a tub. A few of them balled their hands into fists and started drawing their webs toward him. Which bed? I think you can sleep on those collider remains tonight, one said. They'll keep you nice and humble. Oh my God, those remains are so cold, they'll freeze my sword into a popsicle. You wouldn't do that to me, would you? Deadpool took a quiet step back. The Spider-Men moved forward together. Deadpool bolted. The chase started up again amid a storm of webs and shouted orders. In the middle of the confusion, Leon, who had been holding little Peter, picked up the time tablet and turned it over in his hands. Is this future tech? Time technology? Maybe Kang's? Leon murmured. He scrolled through, found his own world on the list. MCU 66S, 199999S, and pressed confirm. Like the others, there was no outward response. But Leon felt something else. The tablet was tugging at the rules of reality, a faint pull under the surface. Using his knowledge of time and space and the tech theory he'd stored up, Leon quickly grasped the device's operating principle. He set little Peter down and started to disassemble the tablet, his fingers precise and calm. He examined microconnections, the layout of the circuitry, the interface between quantum tethers, and the user panel. It all began to make sense. He methodically analyzed the components, then began to reconstruct the device with purpose. While Deadpool was being booted, tossed, and circle-kicked by the 5 Spider-Men, Leon had the tablet taken apart and was halfway through reassembly. When Deadpool was glued into a mummy by Webb and prepared to be left in a corner for the night, Leon was finishing the final modifications. "Confirm," he said, and pressed the button. This time, when he confirmed, something shifted. Not a dramatic gaping doorway, but a thin seam of shimmering air opened in front of the tablet, the beginning of a space-time gate leading to his world. The lab hummed as the device bridged the rules between 2 universes, small and perfect and terrifyingly practical. Deadpool, still wrapped in web and being carried by 3 little spiders, craned his head toward the new seam and let out a muffled, delighted squeal. The little spiders glanced at one another, the earlier despair replaced by a brittle, wary relief. The possibility of home, however messy, was suddenly tangible. "Just as I thought," Leon said, rubbing little Peter's head. "Peter, our apartment is right across the street. You go back first. Don't make May and the others worry." Little Peter stared at the orange-yellow light of the doorway, eyes wide with wonder. When he heard he had to go home, reluctance creased his face. "Brother Leon, are we leaving now?" he asked. "Not we, just you," Leon smiled. "I'm going to visit the Time Variance Authority." The TVA had been a childhood fear for Leon. Ever since he remembered his previous life, he'd always lived half expecting a knock on the door from TVA agents, or the Ancient One herself. Years had passed. Leon's strength now handled most of the threats in the Marvel Universe. The Ancient One had returned to eternity long ago. Still, he'd never actually met the TVA. Now, fate had dropped him into Deadpool's mess, and curiosity nudged him. Why not see what the TVA looked like these days? "Only me." Little Peter clung to Leon's pant leg. "Can I go with you?" "No, kids should be home early to do their homework. Look at Sister Penny. Didn't she rush back to finish hers?" Leon said. "And when you tell Aunt Mai about tonight, don't mention that pervert Deadpool." With that, he scooped little Peter up by the collar and shoved him through the portal. The doorway snapped shut behind them. Leon turned back. Not far off, the 4 Spider-Men who'd been standing in a row, each of them helping carry the web-wrapped Deadpool, looked at him, puzzled. Gwen swung in on a web and landed nearby. "How did you do that?" she demanded. The Spider-Men dropped the Deadpool cocoon with a thud and rushed toward Leon. "Where's little Peter?" Gwen asked. "I sent him home first." Leon held up the time pad. "The reason you couldn't open a portal here is that the TVA hasn't registered this branch of the multiverse. The local timeline parameters aren't recorded. I made a small adjustment," he added. "Now it can be used." The Sony Spider-Man universe and the Marvel Cinematic Universe were adjacent. After all, not long ago, Doctor Strange from the main universe had cast a forgetting spell and brought Tobey and Garfield's Spider-Men to this reality. Gwen's eyes lit up. "So we can go home?" "Yes," Leon said. He turned to the little group of spider people gathered around him. "I'll send you back first." He pointed to the bundled Deadpool on the ground. "After you leave, I'm going with Deadpool." Leon thought the Spider-Men would be eager to go home. Instead, their priorities shifted. "You can understand the internal structure of this thing?" one of them blurted. "How long has it been?" "Unbelievable," another breathed. Wait, Leon, are you really going to the TVA with Deadpool? Gwen asked. Are you planning to help Deadpool save his world? Toby asked. Count me in too, Holland's spider said. A TVA that destroys a whole world on a whim is worse than Thanos. Me too, I'm going. Garfield put a hand on Leon's shoulder. Spider-Man hesitated, then raised his hand as well. Me too. Deadpool's annoying, but the people in his world are innocent. They were Spider-Men through and through. Given the choice between going home safely and launching into danger to save strangers, they all chose the latter. Leon raised an eyebrow. Fine, ask Deadpool. It was strange that the TVA would opt to destroy an entire world because one person in that universe had lost their anchor. That wasn't the TVA Leon remembered from Kang's or Loki's time, and the reason they'd given was the kind of bureaucratic absurdity that made him itch for answers. With his current power, though, even in a place that suppressed magic like the TVA, he felt confident he wouldn't fail. Everyone looked at Deadpool. The red-suited mess, who had been writhing helplessly inside a web cocoon, had managed to stand. He was hopping forward like a trapped caterpillar, making sobbing declarations as he went. My Peter, my Gwen, my Harry Potter, I knew you loved me as much as I love you. But I love you more, 3,000 times. Leon's face went dark. He appeared in front of Deadpool and slapped him down. 3,000 times my ass. Don't plagiarize Iron Man. 10 minutes later, the little spider crew and Deadpool were ready. Except for this world's Spider-Man, who Deadpool had asked to stay behind to watch for fallout, the other four were going through the portal with Deadpool to try to save his world. Holland's spider was warming up while he talked. Wade, how strong are the TVA people? Are there Morlans? They're way worse than Morlan, Deadpool said, grinning. Not super powerful individually, but they stare at you like you're an expensive cheese and somehow you want to give them the finger. Ordinary in skill? Holland repeated. Why would a force that can destroy worlds be ordinary? Maybe that last Thanos was just hiding in a corner watching my butt when I visited, Deadpool shrugged. Before the two could go further, Leon cut in. I have a question. The TVA destroys a world because when an anchor dies, the world would be destroyed in a few thousand years, so they just skip the delay. That sounds reasonable, but actually it's strange, Leon said. He looked at Deadpool. How long do you think Wolverine could live? Deadpool thought for a beat. I don't know, he's a mutant turtle thing. A few hundred years? Okay, so what's the difference in your world between his normal death and an abnormal death when it comes to the time until your world collapses? You don't need to tell me, Deadpool said. His normal death would push the world's end out a few hundred years. Fuck. Deadpool started to tremble. Doesn't that mean my world is destined to be destroyed, like today's sun setting inevitably? That's exactly what's odd. Leon tapped his time pad and opened the portal. A universe's lifespan is usually enormous, but here it gets shortened to a few thousand years because of one anchor. That implies something else is at work. For example, when an anchor dies, another anchor might appear to replace them. Maybe there's another way to save your world, Deadpool. Leon's deduction was blunt. The explanations for destroying universes in the Marvel multiverse were bizarre. The idea of an anchor sounded like a plot device. Hero sacrifices themselves, story ends, world goes with it. In comics, it's up to the writers. In universe, though, eternity, the personification of the multiverse, should be the one to decide whether an anchor changes and who replaces them. Unless, of course, editorial decisions override metaphysical ones. Don't worry about that now, Leon said. Lead the way, Deadpool. Deadpool blinked, then his expression sharpened. He crossed his arms, squared his shoulders, and adopted the voice of someone who'd somehow convinced themselves they were in charge. X-Force Squad 2, move out. Chapter 46, Mr. Paradox TVA Lower Level, Timeline Regulation Center. Not much time had passed since Deadpool's sudden disappearance, but Mr. Paradox was already back in the captain's chair barking orders. Still no sign of that Deadpool fellow? He asked. There's no trace of him in the observable universe, sir. Keep looking. Mr. Paradox had shoved 2 wads of tissue into his nostrils to stem the nosebleed Deadpool's punch had caused. He spoke with a clipped London accent. I invited him to join the TVA, gave him a chance to make something of himself. But instead of showing any gratitude, He broke my nose and dug up the corpse of my hero, Wolverine. Find him before the Time Crusher finishes rebooting, he snapped. I want him to watch his world be destroyed with his own eyes. He ripped the tissues out of his nose and tossed them aside. At that moment, a voice called out from behind him. X-Force Team 2, move out! Deadpool's voice. Everyone turned. An orange-yellow portal blinked open behind Mr. Paradox. Figures stood on the other side. X-Force Team 2? You have a Team 1 too, someone said, a voice that sounded like Spider-Man. Yes, seems there was such a thing, Deadpool answered. Seems? Why do you sound weird? Where did they all go? To a very far-off place. Damn it, your Team 1 isn't all dead, is it? Actually, most of them are dead. My Peter and I are still alive. You're serious? Damn, I think we need a new captain. No. Listen, how long are you going to chat? Get in here. There was a comedic thud as a shoe hit butt. Deadpool rocketed through the portal, hit the floor, slid across the polished tile, and skidded to a stop at Mr. Paradox's feet. He sat up, rubbing his backside. Huh. I don't think I've used that entrance before. Ooh, look at these familiar leather shoes. He peered up at the shoes, breathed on them, and wiped them delicately on his elbow. Then his eyes met Mr. Paradox's. Hi, miss me? Deadpool propped his chin on his hand and struck a ridiculous pose. Mr. Paradox felt his face tighten with fury but forced a smile. I'm very curious why you're back, Mr. Wilson. Did you find an even worse Wolverine? Deadpool planted one hand on the floor and pushed himself up until they were almost nose to nose. This time I brought help, because you can't just casually destroy a universe. There are millions of adorable human babies in there, and creature babies too. Help? Who's helping you? Mr. Paradox sounded amused. The X-Men and Avengers who hate you, or the blind old woman you live with? Wrong guess. It's X-Force. Deadpool snapped his fingers. Come on out, my darlings. 5 people stepped through the orange-yellow portal and lined up. The first 4 wore costumes similar to Deadpool's. Every TVA employee in the room made a sound of disbelief. Spider-Man? Someone breathed. Mr. Paradox was stunned. They all knew Spider-Man. This is the TVA? It looks like the backstage control room of a studio, Gwen said, looking around. I told you, don't call it X-Force, Tom Holland's Spider-Man said to Deadpool. Your team name is cursed. What do we do? Talk to them or fight? Garfield's Spider-Man asked. These people seem to know us. They're just ordinary folks, right? Toby's Spider-Man hesitated. Lion Stark came through last. He tested himself immediately. He had all his usual abilities except magic, unless he could project his inner world into reality and separate it from the environment, in which case, maybe. He'd suspected the TVA's magic suppression was weaker than he'd assumed. He took in the room, the floor embossed with the TVA seal and the motto, Always, Forever. A mural of a world tree crowned a wall, titled Let Us Grow Together. This is Loki's TVA, Lion thought. He stepped past Deadpool, who was rambling about love and peace to the Spider-Men, and walked to the man in the suit and tie at the center. You are Mr. Paradox? The arrival of the Spider-Men had softened Mr. Paradox's tone. That's me, he said automatically. He froze when he saw Lion. You look familiar. Are you some kind of Spider-Man variant? Lion Stark isn't Spider-Man. He's a sorcerer from Kamartaj, Holland said. Lion Stark? A sorcerer? The mention flipped a mental switch in Mr. Paradox. He stared at Lion, and his expression slid from confusion to shock, then to terror. You are Lion Stark. You are Superman. Mr. Paradox stumbled back until he bumped into an employee behind him. You're the Superman from that S-branch universe on the sacred timeline. Lion raised an eyebrow. You know me? The employees who'd been gawking at the Spider-Man now turned to Lion, whispering in awe. Mr. Paradox pushed Deadpool and Spider-Man aside and rushed to stand before Lion. He straightened his collar and cuffs like a fan confronting an idol. You're the only Superman in our countless timelines. You even defeated Dormammu not long ago. Excitement and fear warred on his face. Everyone here knows you. You're called a miracle of the timeline. Lion felt a chill. He had sensed eyes on him before, the feeling of being watched, but he'd chalked that up to his own paranoia. He looked around at the ordinary TVA employees and wondered, had they been observing him all this time? Even with their tech, ordinary agents shouldn't have been able to surveil him without him noticing, right? Chapter 247, Marvel's Superman. No, of course not. We haven't been watching your daily life since last year, Mr. Paradox said. We can only observe the development of certain events in your universe. Your world is like a layer of mist, especially around you, so we can't get close. But we all saw the recent encounter between the two Captain Americas in your world. Mr. Paradox gave a thumbs up. I have to say that was a brilliant confrontation. We're all very much looking forward to what happens next. Leon smiled faintly. There must have been a lot of people watching the show with him, he thought. I'm looking forward to it too. He was about to ask another question when Deadpool barged in between them, clutching his head. Wait. What are you two talking about? Superman? What's Superman? Is this the latest Marvel DC crossover this year? He jabbed a finger at Leon's chest. Or is Leon actually Hyperion or a Sentinel, and you're just riffing on meme references? Oh my god, your pecs feel amazing. Holland Spider leaned in, incredulous. Did I hear Stark? Is Leon Stark? He blinked. So, Leon, do you know Tony? Tony's also a Stark. Yes, Tony's my older brother. You're welcome to come by for a hug sometime, Leon said dryly. Then, annoyed, he pressed the time pad against Deadpool's face and pushed him away. No contact necessary. As for you, keep your distance. Hey, just let me touch it again. Oh God, I'm going to. Deadpool retreated, one hand still plastered to the pad on his face. Leon ignored him and looked at the 4 little spiders gathering around, putting his hands up. Okay, I know what you want to ask. Yes, I am Superman. The suit on Leon's body flowed and after a few seconds shifted back into a metallic dark battle suit. A cloak, like something out of Dormammu's imagery, fluttered at his shoulders. He floated slowly, cloak moving though there was no breeze. Huh? Not just a superhero name like the Superman in the comics? The little spiders whispered. Deadpool shrieked, clutching his cheeks. What did I just see? Are you telling me Marvel actually bought the rights to Superman and cast Deadpool as the supporting character? I thought you were from Hogwarts. Turns out you're from DC. No wonder you're so broody and quiet. Deadpool went on for a few seconds, then suddenly dropped his voice conspiratorially. Hi, actually I'm not Deadpool, I'm Batman. Clark, want to come over to my place for dinner? Wayne Manor's huge. We could do a lot of things that make people happy. Get lost. Leon slapped Deadpool to the ground before he could finish. Still, the 4 Spider-Men pressed in, questions tumbling out. Oh my god, so you're Kryptonian? No, Leon said. I'm an Earthling, but I have Kryptonian blood. A hybrid? Is your father Clark or your mother Kara? Wait, you used heat vision earlier, so that wasn't magic. And you can freeze things. With Gwen, Toby, and Garfield peppering him with questions, Holland led the questioning like a team of 100 reporters. Leon felt like he'd been ambushed at a press conference. No wonder Peter Parker went into journalism, he thought. He used his mental power to gently calm the 4 spiders, and the room finally quieted. Beside him, a flicker of panic showed in Mr. Paradox's eyes. Mr. Stark, you can still use superpowers in the TVA? Mr. Paradox chuckled nervously, wiping his forehead. That's right, Leon said with a half smile. Your anti-magic devices don't seem to work well on me. We actually came here, Deadpool and I, to ask why you destroyed his universe prematurely, Mr. Paradox said, suddenly earnest. This is incredible, Mr. Paradox stammered, sweating. He actually managed to contact you, sir. That's, well, impressive. What's so impressive? Deadpool, back on his feet and in full swing again, put one hand on Leon's shoulder, the other on his chest. Deadpool's Marvel's top seller now. Of course, Kevin got a Superman from DC to help promote things. He leaned in very close. Clark, how much are they paying you? If it's over $100 million, can I have a cut? I could get you a few extra scenes. Leon's eyes flicked to the hand on his chest, and for a moment his irises flashed red. Hey, I'm just kidding. Deadpool peeled his hand away so fast it was almost comic. Why so serious? He rubbed his palm like a man savoring a delicacy. This suit, just by touching it, I nearly came. It's a national treasure. Before Leon could do anything, Deadpool sidled up to Mr. Paradox. Dude, why bring Superman without Batman? You can't handle Superman without Batman. Oh, I was about to say, I'm Batman, Deadpool deep-voiced for effect, then dropped it to a whisper. Batman's currently keeping Superman stable. Before he gets hit by the anti-life equation, tell me, why did the TVA prune the universe early? I need to talk to your boss. This is because... Mr. Paradox stuttered, flustered. Deadpool looked around and saw the other TVA employees similarly sheepish. God, you sons of bitches. You've been carrying on behind your boss's back this whole time. Deadpool crowed. So you've been doing shady stuff on the sly. No, I didn't. Mr. Paradox blurted, looking at Leon with panic. He's exaggerating. Deadpool's joking. In a frantic move, Mr. Paradox grabbed a time-trimming rod from a staffer and thrust it toward Deadpool. The rods were standard TVA tools used to prune targets, banishing them to the void at the end of time. Why are you so angry? I hit the nail on the head. Deadpool reflexively raised his time pad to block. The trimming rod struck the pad. For a heartbeat, the pad dissolved from the inside out, as if eaten by lava. Damn it, you just tried to kill me. Deadpool stared dumbfounded at his empty fist. You're talking nonsense, Mr. Paradox cried, utterly flustered. He lunged again and jabbed the rod. This time, Deadpool was ready. With a quick twist, he turned Paradox's wrist and reversed the rod, driving it into Mr. Paradox's midsection. For an instant, Mr. Paradox flickered, then began to disappear, erased, turned to nothing. He looked almost surprised as he vanished. Deadpool stepped back and in a low, almost admiring voice said, Wow, I didn't think this guy had a conscience. He actually committed suicide out of guilt. You killed him? The little spiders closed in around Deadpool. Gwen put her hands on her hips. That guy looked like the highest-ranking one here. Did we just take care of the big boss? No, how could you say I killed him? Deadpool recoiled theatrically, leaning on Leon's shoulder as if for support. He literally bumped into that vibrator by himself and ascended, found redemption through, self-service. He slid his hand across Leon's chest again, like it was no big deal. Under my gentle persuasion, he saw how wrong he'd been and chose to atone with death. My goodness, these pecs are Leon cut him off by blowing his head clean off. It wasn't gruesome. Leon used his biofield to make the explosion look eerily peaceful. Before Deadpool's body slumped, Leon casually wiped his hands on it. Deadpool needs to repent properly. If there's a god, let him cleanse Deadpool's soul with pure buttocks, he muttered, then grabbed the time-trimming stick that had fallen from Deadpool's hand and began to take it apart. The spider people stared, shocked, as Deadpool's head collapsed into a paste on his shoulders. Even with his healing factor, that looked fatal, except the paste began to knit itself back together, proving he wasn't going anywhere fast. How disgusting, Gwen said, having almost cried out a moment before, but now only able to make a noise of disgust. Whether he's alive or dead, it's gross. Holland Spider nodded. Garfield Spider leaned in. I don't get it. Didn't he say he was tortured for ages before his powers showed up? Why does he look like he was bitten by a mutated cockroach or something? Toby Spider was blunt. I think Leon's punch just now was amazing. Don't pay any attention to that walking pile of yellow waste. The TVA has more people than just those in this room, Leon said, and went back to the time-trimming stick. He disassembled it, studied the mechanism, then reassembled it with a flick. He pointed it at the nearest TVA employee. Tell me, how many timelines has Mr. Paradox destroyed and kept secret from his superiors? The man Leon had aimed at was short and plump, hair neat, visibly nervous. He raised his hands. See, currently none, sir. Deadpool's universe was the first. None yet? Leon sounded surprised. So Deadpool and his crew were unlucky, but with Deadpool involved, a little bad luck is expected. Leon turned his attention to the rest. What about the rest of you? Mr. Paradox wants to act early. Will you follow him because you can't wait for a universe to collapse on its own? Wasn't anyone here who opposed him and reported up the chain? Leon asked. The plump man's eyes darted for a way out. Tension pressed into the room like a physical thing. Leon understood. Not a single innocent among you, it seems. Very well. See you in the void. He didn't hesitate. He used world projection. His inner world burst outward and overlaid the room, disabling the TVA's defenses. Then Leon formed hand seals and used the form of icon, a replication magic. The time-trimming stick in his hand split into dozens of perfect copies, and in an instant, aimed and activated on every TVA employee present. There were panicked, fading screams for a second as one by one they were trimmed away. Leon relaxed his magic and let the world projection fall. The room snapped back to normal, leaving no sign of the chaos but for the empty air and the little spiders who stared at each other. The TVA employees were gone. Leon, what did you do? Holland asked, voice shaky. These people were planning to trim an entire universe, Leon said simply, so it's only fair they get trimmed back. He moved to the main console in the monitoring center. The room had surveillance, but the staff had been forwarding footage to their superiors, keeping those higher-ups in the dark. Leon hooked into the TVA's internal system and re-uploaded the full surveillance logs from the timeline monitoring center, including the footage of him using magic in the room, despite their anti-magic countermeasures. That was the point of his little show. Whoever currently ran the TVA needed to see the truth before they met him. Unless someone like Shen Loki intervened, Leon wanted the upper hand. Corruption was inevitable where power and oversight met, he thought. The staff here were ordinary people armed with future tech. Watching the histories of countless universes from above had given most of them a smug, self-important air, not unlike the transmigrators in web novels. If Leon didn't make a show of force, they might write him off as another plot character, the way they'd treated Loki. An organization that spans the multiverse can still be corrupt, Gwen muttered. I thought only my dad's New York police force had that problem. Holland Spider scratched his head. So the TVA isn't totally righteous? Does that mean Deadpool's universe is saved? More or less, Leon said. If you want to go home, you can. Well, the time pad was broken by Deadpool, so you might have to wait a little. He glanced back at the main console. The transmission had finished. It shouldn't be long. 2 minutes later, the door to the monitoring center opened. A husky female voice came in before anyone appeared. I'm very sorry, Mr. Stark, Miss Stacy, and all the Peter Parkers. More than a dozen armed TVA operatives marched in behind a woman in an orange TVA uniform. Her hair was cropped short, and she walked with the kind of confident stride that comes from experience. Leon recognized her. B-15, codename, once a captain in the TVA's combat unit. After saving timelines alongside Loki, she'd risen to real leadership. She had a tough personality, but could bend to the needs of the moment. As she entered, she went straight to Leon, apology written in her face. No one wanted Mr. Paradox's actions to happen. Thank you, Mr. Stark. Thank you for trimming a group of troublemakers for the TVA, for the multiverse. She forced a smile. But they were only a small, rogue element. Please believe the Time Variance Authority is still the most steadfast guardian of the sacred timeline. We're on the same side, Superman, she added, her gaze never leaving Leon. Her right hand stayed wrapped around the time-trimming stick at her waist. She knew this Superman better than most. Everyone in the TVA did. He was the only Superman in the observable multiverse. His story had been cataloged and analyzed there. He had principles and a kindness, but he wasn't a purely untouchable hero like the comic book archetype. His foes never ended well on the timelines. B-15 gripped the stick so hard her voice threatened to crack, even though the device was as harmless as scrap under Leon's tinkering. Chapter 249, Zhang Duoyuan Special Operations Team. Standing on the same side? Lion raised an eyebrow, and B-15 felt her heart tighten. Then I hope we can always stand on the same side. Lion held out his hand. Lion Stark. When he extended his hand, B-15's shoulders stiffened and she instinctively held her breath. The next second, when he introduced himself, she exhaled a long, relieved breath and a bright, almost uncontrollable smile spread across her face. I'm B-15, Mr. Stark, she said, grabbing Lion's hand with both of hers and shaking it energetically. Of course, we'll always be on the same side. People like Mr. Paradox are definitely not the majority here. Every organization has its problems. I understand that, Lion said. Noticing B-15 still wasn't letting go, he gave his hand a small tug to free it. A look of disappointment flashed across her face. Lion ignored it. Problems mean there are flaws in your systems. Don't you have an oversight department? This, not at the moment. Before, Miss Time was managing everything systematically. B-15 sighed. But now, well, maybe we really do need to set up a regulatory department. Miss Time was the TVA's artificial intelligence, crucial to its operations. During Loki's resolution of the multiverse crisis, she had opposed the TVA, and although she was rebooted after Loki became a god, the TVA still couldn't trust her the way they used to. Miss Time? Lion nodded in understanding. Then he offered casually, if you need a trustworthy AI, perhaps Jarvis could help. You know him. He's now an intelligent life form. He'd probably be eager to be a hero who watches over the multiverse. Lion said it offhand, but B-15 took it seriously. She frowned in thought, then actually nodded. We can try. I know Jarvis. No matter the universe, he's an excellent artificial intelligence. Is that so? Lion looked surprised. Then I'll have him come in for an interview in a couple of days. I know Jarvis, too, Holland Spider blurted out. He was Tony's most reliable assistant. So, Lion, are you really Tony's brother? Of course, Lion said. I already told you. You'll get a chance to visit my world later and you can hug Tony. Lion patted Holland Spider's shoulder. That guy'll love a kid who admires him. That's wonderful. Holland Spider beamed, then hesitated. But I don't know how to get to your world. Maybe you can, Lion began, pointing at B-15. She smiled and finished the thought. We actually have a plan related to anchor persons. Do you know about anchor persons? B-15 asked. Yes, Mr. Paradox told Deadpool, and Deadpool told all of us, Holland Spider rattled off. Mr. Paradox did a good job on that, 15 nodded. The TVA's duty is to maintain the stability of the sacred timeline. We monitor anyone who might disrupt the balance of the multiverse and prune them ahead of time. How do you determine who will disrupt the timeline? Gwen asked, touching her own shoulder. Does us hopping between universes count as disruption? B-15 shook her head. Superheroes traveling between universes is common and won't destabilize the timeline. She tapped Deadpool, who was theatrically feigning death on the floor. Someone like him, he traveled across timelines and left chaos wherever he went. That's our target. All eyes swung to Deadpool. His head looked normal, and his mask was still on. He'd just been pretending to be dead. Now, mentioned out loud, he reached up and scratched his butt. What did he do? Toby Spider asked. He went back to the past to save his girlfriend, killed other universes' Deadpools, and indiscriminately caused destruction, B-15 said. His actions spawned large numbers of parallel universes and affected the original world, seriously interfering with the stability of the timeline. If left unchecked, it could lead to universe collisions. If he hadn't eventually given up the time travel device and stopped leaving his own world, we would have arrested and pruned him long ago. The young spider heroes all gasped. They never imagined the ever-chaotic Deadpool had almost become a multiversal fugitive. On the floor, Deadpool's hand froze mid-scratch. He straightened up, a little white around the eyes. So what is your plan regarding anchor persons? Lion asked. Is it to recruit anchor persons to apprehend those fugitives who threaten the multiverse? Exactly, B-15 said. According to our observations, a group of dangerous, restless individuals is gathering across the multiverse. They are extremely perilous. Even the TVA finds them hard to manage. Fortunately, we have an idea. Gather anchor persons from across the multiverse to fight them. Anchor persons often represent a universe's fate, she continued. We believe that when anchor persons are united, they gain the power to change the fate of the multiverse. Fuck! Deadpool jumped up. But the anchor person of our universe is already dead. Nobody paid him any mind. Gwen asked, how do you identify anchor persons? B-15 smiled. Except for Miss Stacy's universe, which is currently outside our observation range, I can tell you this. The other Spider-Men here and Mr. Stark are anchor persons in your respective universes. The Peters went silent. We are anchor persons? Someone muttered. Holland Spider was the most stunned. Me? I could actually be the core of a world? Don't underestimate yourself, Peter, B-15 said meaningfully. Spider-Man is one of the multiverse's most important figures. But Holland Spider began. No buts. It just so happens you're all here today. B-15 extended her hand. I officially invite you to join the TVA and form a special multiverse team. The young spiders exchanged glances. Lion declined first. Joining a team is out of the question. If there's a crisis that affects the entire multiverse, call me. Otherwise, Spider-Man is enough. That's a pity, B-15 said, disappointment visible. She had mainly brought Lion into the plan. She knew Spider-Man's limits. You can all go back and think it over. The TVA will always welcome you. No need to think. Deadpool suddenly leaned close to B-15. I agree to join. How can the multiverse team be without the Marvel savior? From now on, this will be X-Force Team 3. B-15 blinked. Sorry, we only want anchor persons. Deadpool froze, then flailed his hands. Can't you loosen the requirements a little? If it comes down to it, I can pay, in chrysanthemum. We don't need any chrysanthemums here, B-15 replied flatly. Damn it, in the multiverse even chrysanthemums are worthless now. Deadpool slammed a fist on the wall. As he paced, an idea hit him. Speaking of chrysanthemums, have you ever seen a Wolverine so drunk he couldn't stand up? Chapter 250, Cassandra the Void Land, or rather, the Land of Remains, was a graveyard at the end of the multiverse's time. Once it had served as a junkyard for the Time Variance Authority. Where there had been void, now lay continents and factions made from the people and things swept out when a universe was destroyed or pruned. Under Kang the Conqueror, the TVA had pruned timeline after timeline, piling up worlds and characters like refuse. Even after the TVA changed leadership and shifted its mission from enforcing the uniqueness of the sacred timeline to maintaining stability, those already pruned had nowhere to return. They were left here, condemned to drift in the void land and forever risk complete annihilation. In one region, the landscape was a vast desert. Bitter winds drove only yellow sand across ancient ruins and bones. By the roadside, a toppled stone carving spelled Fox in large letters, remnants from the Fox universe that had been shredded and dumped here. Mr. Paradox, killed by Deadpool and pruned along with a group of TVA Timeline Control Center staff, had been among the debris. Their landing had not been gentle. Not far off stood a mutant base. The passing mutants had discovered them and taken them in. When Mr. Paradox came to, he was tied to a pillar. All along to his left and right, he heard ragged breathing. Turning his head, he found a dozen or so of his subordinates bound to other pillars. Dozens of mutants of various forms stood before them. Behind the mutants, Wolverine, who had been pruned earlier, was bound as well, glaring. Beside him, a Captain America in a linen robe was tightly bound. Behind them loomed a gargantuan helmet, 7 or 8 meters tall, the giant-sized carcass of Ant-Man made into a base, its head serving as the doorway. Mr. Paradox wondered if this was some sort of human trafficking gang of the void. The thought felt absurd, until a cool, British-accented voice whispered in his ear. "You're finally awake. Slept well?" His eyes widened. He turned in horror. A woman with a smooth, shiny scalp, wearing a yellow-brown trench coat and work boots, leaned close. One hand rested on his shoulder, the other cradled the back of his head in an intimate, possessive gesture. "Cassandra?" "No, don't," he blurted. He knew the face, knew the name. She didn't stop. She slid 5 long, slender fingers into his skull and began to explore. They came out through his eye sockets, pierced his cheekbones, folded and searched, but never seemed to kill him. The motions were graceful, almost tender, yet brutal. She breathed into his ear. "Shh, don't speak. My brother and I are different. He can interfere with minds from a distance. I still need to get my hands inside." "You're from the TVA, right?" she asked abruptly. "I'm curious. What made people from the TVA get pruned here? You tossed me in when I was a baby." Mr. Paradox tried to protest. "We can talk, Cassandra. Be reasonable." Cassandra's fingers delved deeper. "Let me look." She read his memories like a reader leafing through a book. Her face brightened. Interesting." She smiled, cool and faint. "You bribed my subordinate John the Fire to kill me. You're planning to restart the Time Crusher, to destroy the universe with it, and then take control of the TVA." Mr. Paradox sputtered. "I made a deal with the TVA, that neither of us would interfere with the other. Why would I kill you?" "Ha ha ha," Cassandra said, amused. With a casual tap of her free hand, she stroked his forehead, then glanced at the other bound bodies and the gathered mutants. "And your thoughts are full of juicy things. Spider-Man, Superman, are they in the TVA?" She withdrew her hand and, with graceful deliberation, took a dog-headed golden tablet from one of her subordinates. "Thank you for bringing so much news," she told the captive, "and for bringing the most important tool." She held the time tablet up. "This looks like the same one Deadpool had, the one you pruned. It fell right beside you." Mr. Paradox searched her eyes. "By bringing it, you intend to open the TVA doors to us?" Cassandra brushed his nose with a finger and shook her head, smiling with a touch of mockery. "You're my little darling." She turned toward Wolverine. "Logan, this is the one who pruned you. How about I give you a little revenge?" Whether Wolverine consented or not was irrelevant. With a swift motion, Cassandra reached behind her. Without disturbing her smile, She stripped flesh from bone with the same clinical elegance she used to read memories. Mr. Paradox and more than a dozen TVA staff were suddenly reduced to pale, clean skeletons. The clatter of unsupported bones rolling together filled the air. The brutality was absolute, yet her face remained composed, almost amused. "Feeling any better?" she asked. Wolverine turned his face away. He said nothing. The linen-clad Captain America beside him offered a fawning grin. "He's just a bit shy," he purred. Cassandra tapped her fingers in amusement. "A wolf with a stubborn streak. Delicious." She climbed the steps into the skeletal base, time tablet in hand. "The Time Crusher," she mused. "What a delicious toy. If used to destroy the multiverse, if it shattered the temporal matrix of worlds and made them all fall into the Voidland, well, that would be very interesting." A hint of madness flickered across her elegant smile. "The TVA wants to kill me, so I'll kill them first. And if I can collect a few Spider-Men and Supermen on the way, why not?" She flicked through the time tablet until she found what she wanted, the Deadpool universe's number. The Time Crusher Mr. Paradox had planned to restart was there, powered by matter and antimatter and capable of collapsing a world's temporal matrix. "Let's begin by destroying the multiverse," Cassandra said, and used the tablet to open a spatio-temporal portal. As the portal opened, a trace of chaos magic from a distant universe locked onto it. Chapter 251, Scarlet Witch. The space a short distance from Cassandra tore open, and a crimson passage yawned into being. Wanda, wrapped in a mantle of red magic, and Tony, gleaming in his nanosuit, stepped through. "Lion, it's my turn to save you this time," Tony called as soon as they appeared. Hours earlier, Wanda had tried every method she knew and come up empty. Lion was gone. She urgently contacted Tony and Mordo at Camartage. To pursue him, she had even learned how to open Camartage portals from Wong, and in a very short time, she taught herself to open multiversal gateways with chaos magic. When Peter returned, she reverse-traced the timepad's signature through the portal traces and found its trail. But Lion and the others had gone straight to the TVA. The TVA suppressed magic. It was a place Wanda couldn't track into. She didn't give up. So when Cassandra used the timepad again, Wanda opened a portal and chased after her. Tony came along, mostly for the thrill. He wasn't truly worried about Lion. Someone who could cross dimensions like that was hardly likely to be in real danger. Tony was more curious about Wanda. Her anxious, distracted look around Lion had intrigued him. When they'd first met, hadn't Lion threatened her? Why would that leave a mark? The mystery only drew Tony in, and he asked Wanda plainly why Lion mattered so much to her. Wanda couldn't answer. Even she couldn't explain it clearly. She only knew she kept finding reasons to watch him. Maybe it had started after the Dormammu incident. After everyone went home, Tony had created a group chat on Stark's platform and named it Avengers. They were a small roster. People traded glimpses of their lives there. Lion rarely spoke. In person, he could be lively, but online he was quiet. One day, curious, Wanda clicked Lion's avatar. The man the news called Superman, the headline's stoic savior, had very little social media presence. His most recent Moments post was from the previous year, a photo of him in a spacesuit, sitting in a craft and flashing a peace sign. The caption read, "Going to sunbathe in the cosmos for the next 2.5 years. If you miss me, look up at the sky." Comments below were typical. Banner joked, "The media said you disappeared, so you went to space." Tony's dozens of replies ranged from teasing, "Kid, don't get too tan or the girls will ignore you when you're back," to the fond, "Haven't seen you for a month, the place feels quieter." Pepper at Ed Tony, "You clearly could contact Lion yourself." 6 months later, Shirley at Ed Tony, "Uncle Tony's way of caring for our big brother is so weird." Tony snapped back, "Stop it, I was just asking for Pepper." Wanda smiled at this little found family. Out of boredom, she clicked through everyone's profiles, and she noticed Shirley had been posting photos every day for 2 months, morning, noon, and night. Morning, Lion sunbathing on a balcony. Noon, Lion still on the balcony. Evening, Lion again on the balcony. The photos showed he barely moved all day. Wanda was curious. She started checking Shirley's Moments every morning to see what Lion was up to. The result was predictable, Lion sunbathing in different poses. Wanda knew, from comic stories, that a man like Lion might actually sunbathe to recharge, but it didn't fit the Playboy image the press painted. Where were the parties, the glamour, the string of conquests? Wanda pictured Lion in a sharp suit, a rose on his lapel, surrounded by admirers, and felt an odd pang of sourness. Lion seemed nothing like the image she'd constructed. Their meetings had been redefining him in her mind. At first, he was a harsh, violent sort of savior who'd both saved and threatened her. Later, he'd been like a sorcerer supreme, silently sacrificing for the world. After they spent time together in that inner world, he became patient and considerate, someone she wanted close but felt too timid to approach. As their interactions deepened and her own power grew, her fear faded and a new competitiveness surfaced. She watched the news about Lion and simultaneously watched his quiet balcony life in Shirley's posts. She told herself she was gathering intel to one day be able to defeat him, but the truth was more complicated. Looking at public adoration for the hero and then at the private ordinary photos, Wanda felt a secret, private joy. She had a small, exclusive window into his ordinary life. She imagined living with him on a simple farm. He would chop wood, she would cook dinner, and when the world needed him, he would tear open his shirt and soar into the sky, then return and hold her. When she dwelled on that fantasy, she would curl up on her bed, clutching the blanket and smiling. Tony was amused by the way she brought Lion to mind. He'd followed them not out of duty, but to watch what sparks might fly between the two of them, and, if there was time, to see the Spider-Man from Peter's stories for himself. But when their portal closed behind them, the place they stepped into was nothing like Hell's Kitchen. The landscape was empty and desolate. There were no buildings, only low, weathered structures that looked almost like carcasses. On the ground below moved people dressed like cowboys. Didn't you say Hell's Kitchen? There isn't a single building. Where are we? Tony peered around, irritated. And who are those cowboys? Their houses look like giant corpses. Are they cannibals? Jarvis, scan the surrounding environment, Tony ordered. Yes, sir. Scanning now. Wanda drifted, letting chaos magic extend from her like a sense. Seconds later, she opened her eyes. Lion isn't here. So you opened the portal to the wrong place? Tony asked. No mistake. I tracked the device in that woman's hand. A faint filament of chaos magic stretched from Wanda's palm and connected to the time pad in Cassandra's grip. Her gaze followed the line and met Cassandra's. Interesting. Cassandra's lips curved. Scarlet Witch and Iron Man, rare commodities in the Voidland. Rare commodities? Tony's tone soured. Is human trafficking already this blatant? Wanda kept her focus on Cassandra. Where did you get that pad? Have you seen Lion Stark? Her words were steady but sharp. Chaos magic pooled around her fingers. Tell me the truth, Cassandra shrugged, amused. If I don't tell you, what will you do about it? She raised her hands, and without warning, a mountain-weight telekinetic force slammed toward Wanda and Tony. Tony's armor groaned as his suit began to be torn apart by the raw pulling power, metal creaking and fracturing. For a moment, it looked like they might be shredded. Then Wanda unleashed chaos magic. Her power flared like a crimson tide, pushing back the telekinetic crush. The sky flashed blood red as her magic roiled outward. Tony steadied himself, a little shaken and suddenly very grateful. Damn, this one's strong and rude about duel etiquette. He glanced at Wanda. Thanks. Wanda had barely steadied herself when Cassandra applauded, delighted. Very good. You're the first person to survive my telekinetic attack. I once found a sorcerer in a red cape who claimed to be the Sorcerer Supreme, Cassandra continued, voice gleeful. I flayed his skin and wore it for 4 days. As expected of the Scarlet Witch, almost unheard of in the Voidland, very impressive. Her smile was elegant, but laced with cruelty. I'm increasingly tempted to peel your skin off, inch by inch. Wanda ignored the taunt. Answer me, where did you get the pad? She let the chaos magic pour through her. Her clothes dissolved into a gown of crimson energy. A crown of scarlet, tenuous and real, formed on her brow, and her eyes blazed red like a goddess of war. The wind and the clouds seemed to bow to her will. Cassandra's smile didn't falter. The Voidland watched, tense and silent, as the Scarlet Witch prepared to tear open the sky. Chapter 252, Cassandra's First Sight. That tablet again? When Wanda appeared, Cassandra's usually impassive face finally shifted, only a little, but enough. Raised in the Voidlands, Cassandra had never once had to doubt her supremacy. Under the veneer of elegance and casualness sat absolute confidence in her power. She glanced at the tablet in her hand and grew a touch more serious. You seem very concerned about it. Or rather, about that, Leon. She tilted the time tablet as if pondering. Let me think. There was a Leon in that TVA official's memory just now, so he's a Superman. She replayed the memory in her head. Handsome, and that physique, far better than the Wolverine I just collected. He's valuable. Sorry, witch. Cassandra tapped the tablet and smiled. Your little boyfriend looks good. He's mine now. She met Wanda's gaze without flinching. The air tightened. It felt like a storm building. Every mutant in the base held their breath. Scarlet energy unfurled across the sky, and even the wind seemed tinged with red. They all knew. This newcomer was terrifyingly powerful and furious. Cassandra had the confidence to stand against such a threat. The mutants did not. Had they believed escape would save them, they would have run. Instead, they froze, hearts clenching, because Cassandra had made it plain that she could end them with a thought. What? Leon and Wanda, when did you two start dating? That kid never told me. Tony took in the charged atmosphere, but couldn't help himself from prying. He barely got the words out before noticing Wanda beside him, wrapped in chaos magic, her eyes burning red like coals. He swallowed the rest of his sentence. Never told me. Sorry, I shouldn't interrupt when ladies are talking. Please, carry on. He quietly engaged his thrusters and edged away from Wanda. These kids have such fiery tempers. I was going to show that bald guy down there the new armor, but I guess that's out. That's a pity, sir, Jarvis replied, but I've identified a Captain America among the crowd below. Jarvis projected the bound captain onto Tony's HUD. Captain? There's one there too? That's the third Cap I've seen. Tony raised an eyebrow. Hold on, if Captain is a good guy and he's tied up, then the people holding him are bad. I can handle them, right? No problem, sir. Jarvis, suit up. We're rescuing Captain. Tony chuckled and changed course, diving toward the mutants below. Above, Wanda lifted both hands and looked at Cassandra with an expressionless face. You don't have to tell me. I'll see for myself. Scarlet power flowed from her pale palms, chaos magic gathering. The smile on Cassandra's face vanished at once. The telekinetic field she held, power enough to sweep continents, began to disintegrate, layer by layer. What is this? Before her telekinesis could wholly collapse, Cassandra scrambled to build countless psychic defenses around her mind. They shredded away. Her psychic strength felt like chalk. Wanda's chaos magic was the eraser. Wherever Cassandra's telekinesis had touched chaos, it vanished as if it had never been. Her consciousness was dragged into a blank mental space with no resistance. She stood at its center. Around her were broken televisions, torn movie screens, any device that could show images. Wanda's scarlet figure stood before them, watching Cassandra's memories play across the displays. You don't need to resist. I'll leave once I find what I'm looking for. Wanda's tone was measured. Despite Cassandra's earlier insults and threats, Wanda intended only to extract the information she needed. But Cassandra didn't see it that way. Wanda's words sounded like disdain. I'll take what I need and go. Furious and offended, Cassandra lashed out. This was her mental world. She was its master. Even the Scarlet Witch couldn't simply come in and take what she wanted. She unleashed a tidal wave of psychic force, enough to crack continental plates, aimed straight at Wanda. The mental space responded, but Wanda barely glanced at the onrushing storm before returning her attention to the flickering memories. When the psychic tide hit, scarlet ripples radiated out from Wanda. The pure white of Cassandra's inner world was stained red. Color spread from Wanda's core until Cassandra's mental landscape had been transformed into Wanda's home ground. Your power is weak, not as strong as his, Wanda said quietly. Don't even think about making him yours, Cassandra seethed. Wanda's casual dismissal, saying that a weak, bald upstart had no chance with Leon, only stung more. But the psychic world had already been overwhelmed. Cassandra's consciousness was pressed into a corner, her defenses eroding under the pressure of chaos magic. She could only glare, powerless to stop the red tide from consuming her. Minutes later, Wanda found images of Leon among Mr. Paradox's memories. Time Variance Authority, he's there. They plan to deal with him, Wanda muttered, piecing it together. I can go help. Wait, TVA suppression magic. I should tell Mr. Stark and get him to take me in. She glanced back at Cassandra, who hovered at the edge of her own mind, forcibly constrained. If you'd told me this from the start, things would have been simpler. Wanda's figure melted out of the mental space. The red tide receded just as quickly as it had come. Cassandra regained control, flinging psychic clamps back into place and gathering her scattered thoughts. Her face shifted through a complex mix of fury and contempt. "Scarlet Witch," Cassandra hissed. Wanda spoke aloud to the air. "Mr. Stark, we can—" Then she paused. Where is he?" Wanda scanned the battlefield, expecting Tony still at her side. Instead, she saw him on the ground, deep in a scuffle with a group of attackers. They were a chaotic assortment. Brute strength, bodies sprouting spikes, instant teleportation, varied and dangerous abilities. Why had he started fighting those people? Wanda thought for a moment. Leon researches genetics. Maybe he could harvest their blood. The possibility settled quietly in her mind as she watched Tony engage the powered mob. Chapter 253. Captain Zhang's mouth is covered with honey. Tony was in his armor. With a left hook, he sent a tall, helmeted man flying. With his right, he activated an electromagnetic shield to block an energy blade swung by a woman in a skin-tight suit. This suit, Mark 12, was an upgraded nano armor Tony had built non-stop after Leon had complained he was too slow last time. It was his most advanced nano armor yet, built from vibranium and an optical computing system stolen from another world. Everything had been upgraded, from propulsion to weapons. The top speed readout pushed toward Mach 300. Because the entire shell was vibranium, its defensive capability was terrifying. In Tony's math, even Leon, fresh back to Earth from space a few months ago, would have to make a real effort to tear it apart by brute force. With the armor's thrusters augmenting his output, Tony's power far outstripped his old fungus god armor. For now, he'd shelved the biological suit. He'd only bring it back when he wanted to ravenously eat enemies' life forces or when facing ultrasonic weapons. It wasn't that biotech was bad. It was just that the optical computer tech from that other world was simply ridiculous. He charged through the mutants. If not for the indestructible Red Tank, he'd have cleared the room already. Red Tank kept getting thrown across the hall and immediately getting up. Only one enemy still posed a real problem. A woman who condensed light into blades. Psylocke. Bang. Tony's fist sent Psylocke out cold. "Last one," Tony said, eyeing Red Tank. "All right, big guy, just you now." Red Tank shoved himself up again. "If I let them go, Cassandra kills me," he said, staggering forward. "You serious?" Tony snarked. "With a boss who treats you like cannon fodder, can't you learn to slack off once in a while?" Tony raised his hand, and the palm-mounted laser cannon hummed to life. "I've got a driver named Happy who's great at slacking off. He's actually head of security now." That line seemed to hit. Red Tank froze, stared at Tony for a few blank seconds, then looked back toward Cassandra. After a moment, he took a few steps backward, collapsed with a thud, shut his eyes, and started playing dead. "That's right. The sooner you drop, the sooner you rest, helmet boy," Tony muttered, killing the palm cannon. At that moment, Wanda's voice came from behind them. "Mr. Stark, I know where Leon is. We should go." Tony blinked. He turned to Wanda and then glanced at the motionless Red Tank. "Damn, I thought I'd convinced him. Turns out you beat his boss into it." Tony's thrusters powered down, and he settled to the floor. "So where's that kid Leon? Don't tell me he's in real danger." "I'm not sure," Wanda said. She hooked her finger, and the time tablet flew out of Cassandra's still unconscious hand into her palm. "I only know he's in an organization outside of normal time. Their attitude isn't clear." "That doesn't sound great," Tony said, walking over to Captain America. He aimed a laser and neatly cut the ropes binding Captain America and Wolverine. "Captain, get your friend and go." Tony hauled Captain America up. "I don't know how you wound up in that bald woman's clutches, but you definitely didn't follow Tony's advice on this one." He patted the stunned super soldier on the shoulder. "Next time, maybe listen to Tony a little more, then you wouldn't get caught." Captain America's first words made Tony freeze. "What kind of Tony?" the captain asked. "I don't know that fellow, but thanks, stranger. If you hadn't beaten those bastards, Cassandra, that bitch would have had her way with every inch of me today." Tony, already halfway turned away, swung back in disbelief. What did you just say?" "I said thanks. Problem?" Captain America replied, casual as a man ordering coffee. Where are you two headed? I know this place. I can show you the way. That's not what I meant. It's your language. Tony didn't bother masking his confusion. Did I not wake up in the right world? Wanda also gaped. Captain America really talks like that. This isn't another world. We're at the end of time. Anything can happen. End of time? Tony glanced at the tablet. I saw images in that woman's head. This place is a graveyard between times. We'll sort it out on the way. Wanda shot Captain America a look. Don't worry about them. They're probably not from a world similar to ours. Captain couldn't possibly. She didn't finish the sentence, shaking her head. He couldn't possibly be that vulgar. Tony shrugged and waved them off. We've got things to do. Goodbye, folks. Especially you, Captain. You've got a mouth like a sewer. I should have recorded that. Wolverine grunted his thanks. Captain America nodded and gave a casual farewell. He glanced at Cassandra, seeming to consider kicking her, which only made Tony more speechless. Wanda drew tubes of blood from everyone present with a flick, preparing samples for Leon. With everything settled, Tony and Wanda lifted off and flew out of the base. Wanda gave a quick briefing on the Time Variance Authority. It's magic proof. If Leon's there, he could be in real trouble. Tony brightened. So you can't use magic, and we'll have to rely on tech. Sounds like my kind of rescue. Wanda nodded. I knew the day would come when that kid would need my help. Today's that day. Tony dug into the world ring Leon had made for him and pulled out an arc reactor. He tossed it to Wanda. This was the chest unit I built for Pepper. Strap it in. Consider it a loan from your future husband. Pretend Leon gave it to you. For anyone else, Tony might have said more possessive things, but Wanda, powerful and not power-hungry, earned his unconditional support. Wanda connected the reactor to her chest, and the armor sprang up around her in a flash of blue nanoweave. It molded itself to her form, fitting perfectly. Her foot thrusters engaged, and she let her chaos magic fall silent. After a minor adjustment, she hovered steadily. Thanks, she said with a grin. Flying in armor is a different feeling. I'll open a space-time portal to the TVA now. She activated the time tablet, preparing to open the gate. Before she could complete the sequence, rings of scarlet energy burst up behind them and welded together into a giant sphere, blocking their exit. Leaving already? Where do you think you're going? A cold voice said. Scarlet Witch, you broke into my master's house, took what you wanted, and now you plan to leave without permission. Wanda turned. Cassandra stood at the base entrance, eyes like knives. She held Captain America by the throat in one hand. In the other, she wore a sling ring that pulsed with green and red light at both edges. The scarlet barrier held firm between them, and the air smelled dangerous. Chapter 254, Jang Wanda versus Cassandra. Sir, a massive gamma energy burst has been detected. The surrounding physical laws are being altered, Jarvis warned from inside the armor. The energy fluctuations match the space stone young master Leon once used, another feed reported. There's a greater than 97% chance the opponent possesses an infinity stone and is actively using it. Tony's eyes were fixed on the sling ring in Cassandra's hand. What about the other 3%? He asked. Jarvis replied, It's possible the display is a ruse, gamma emissions produced by some other means, like Banner's transformation into the Hulk. That probability should be nowhere near 3%. It shouldn't even be 0.1%. Tony muttered, watching the green and red lights glint off the ring. Did you see the colors on that sling ring? That's the time stone and something else. You're correct, sir, Jarvis said. Based on current readings, the second gem is the reality stone. Tony's jaw tightened. He'd learned the scope of the time and space stones from Leon. Each infinity stone could bend reality in horrifying ways. Jarvis, maybe Miss Wanda can handle this. Her power resembles the reality stone. Agreed, Jarvis answered. Leave it to her. Wanda, overhearing, cut off whatever interface she'd been sharing with the armor and rose into the air. Her hands began to weave again, and chaos magic spilled from her fingertips in slow, spreading waves. Cassandra on the ground watched with a soft, amused chuckle. Leaving? How disappointing, she said, turning the sling ring over on her finger so the two stones caught the light. The green time stone and the crimson reality stone gleamed on either side. I found this neat little trinket when I dispatched the Sorcerer Supreme. You handle it like you know its secrets, Wanda said coolly. It's terrifying, isn't it? Cassandra smiled. I hear fear in your tone. Laughable. Which, any final words? She tossed the half-conscious Captain America aside with casual disdain, and adopting her refined British accent, tilted her head at Wanda as if listening to a lecture. Inside, however, she had decided Wanda would pay for the humiliation. Wanda's reply was quiet. Once in my dreams, a Wanda met someone like you. That person taught her the true meaning of the Scarlet Witch. Since you insist, I'll tell you who I am. Chaos magic swelled through her like a rising tide. Crimson waves struck at the inner walls of the pocket reality Cassandra had shaped with the Reality Stone and began to rewrite it. In just a few breaths, the false space was almost entirely corrected by Wanda's power. The Reality Stone and her chaos magic matched one another's force. The world inside their clash split into two overlapping fields of red, meeting in a violent seam where matter crumbled to dust. Cassandra's stone could not hold. The crimson of chaos magic ate away at the other red energy. Cassandra's calm almost snapped. She laughed, sharp and forced, and the green of the time stone flared. That's cute, but you'll see what you really are when I pry it straight from your mind. A thin veil of green spread through the isolated space and struck the chaos magic. Time itself was paused and pushed backward around Wanda's spells, erasing her recent corrections. The boundary between the two reds recoiled toward Wanda as if pushed by an invisible hand. For a moment, Cassandra's use of the stones crushed Wanda's counterstrike like a key blast overwhelming a rival's wave. Wanda did not panic. She had seen the Time Stone's effects before, in Leon's inner world, and in dreams shown to her by other versions of herself. Chaos magic did not only rewrite matter, it could adjust space and time. She altered her gestures, changing the cadence and shape of her wards. The chaos magic that had been collapsing steadied, then slowly shoved back. Cassandra's technique was blunt and forceful. Wanda's was adaptive and precise. The tug-of-war swung back in Wanda's favor. Their energies collided, tore, and remade reality over and over. At the convergence point, reality itself showed signs of strain. Rifts, flickers, shards of collapsing space. Wanda, drawing on the lessons of countless other Wandas, began to master the strange interplay of time and reality. Cassandra, by contrast, was a storm of power with little finesse. Damn it! Cassandra snapped, rage distorting her features. She poured everything through both stones. Her voice went cold and vicious. How are you this strong? Witch, just die like you should. Obey. She unleashed a titanic telekinetic sweep. The giant Ant-Man corpse behind her crumbled under the force. Bone spikes erupted from the ground and hurtled at Wanda in a screaming storm. Tony finally found his opening. I'll handle this, he announced, and fired repulsors, streaking forward to blast the incoming projectiles apart. Energy beams shattered the spikes, only for Cassandra to reconstitute the debris at an atomic level with a thought, sending it back like a new volley. She's reassembling them on a molecular scale, Tony cursed. Jarvis, raise the shield. He threw up a force field, but where the bones met the boundary between chaos magic and the stone's energy, they turned to dust instantly. Tony hovered in the air, shield raised and spluttering, his bravado withering. Sir, Jarvis observed gently, it appears this is a duel that does not require our intervention. Tony bristled, trying to salvage some dignity. I saw the whole thing from the start. I just wanted to root for Wanda. Wanda glanced back at him without breaking her concentration. Thanks, Mr. Stark, but you can leave this to me. Of course, I'll leave it to you, Tony said, beating a retreat and flying back to hover behind her. He added, not entirely deadpan, Jarvis, see? These are the Avengers I chose. They watched as the two women continued to batter reality itself, crimson chaos magic meeting the cold, cruel light of the Infinity Stones. The pocket world shuddered with each exchange, and at its heart, the duel between Scarlet Witch and Cassandra promised to rewrite more than just the space around them. Chapter 255, Jang Jarvis, run. Actually, Miss Wanda was raised by Master Leon. Your original plan for her was just to find a decent job after university, Jarvis said bluntly. What's the difference? Isn't being an Avenger a good job? Tony snapped. I think you need to work on your people skills, Jarvis. Tony made a face. Since Jarvis had become a sentient life form, he'd grown annoyingly blunt. Big data tells me sincerity wins hearts. Next time, be a little more sincere. Jarvis's tone went suddenly serious. Sir, a strong energy reaction has been detected 10 kilometers out. It's accelerating toward us. More energy? Can't be another stone, can it? Is this place an infinity stone wholesale market? Tony squinted toward the horizon. Where there had been only a haze a moment ago, black dust now billowed like a charging army. Cassandra, cornered and exhilarated, laughed wildly and cranked the stone's output even higher. Their vast power flowed through her, ripping fissures in her skin. Beneath them, a roiling energy pulsed. Even with her self-healing, she was feeling the stone's side effects, but she didn't care. Your racket attracted it. It's hungry. Now you're its snack. Fresh wounds opened across Cassandra's body, but she giggled like a child presented with a priceless toy. At Cassandra's command, the mutants Wanda had suppressed all over the base stopped feigning death. One by one, they rose and streamed out of the space Wanda had been keeping in check. Elios is coming. Run! Run! They shouted as they fled. Wolverine scooped up the newly revived Captain America and, finding a thruster in the base, launched himself into the sky in a corkscrew escape. As they passed Tony, Cap shouted a warning. That's Elios, a life form formed from a storm. It devours everything, space, time. Anything that falls into its maw is gone forever. This is why the void is barren. Run! They were gone in an instant. Elios? Tony watched as the haze became a few kilometers away and resolved into a mountainous storm. Countless bolts of purple-black lightning laced its bulk. Ahead of it loomed a head, blood-red eyes, and a hyena-like maw. Wherever it passed, plants and earth were swallowed clean. Cassandra cackled. Do you see it? Do you see it? Witch, you can't move now. You'll make a lovely snack for this big guy. She ramped the stone's output again. Chaos magic faltered beneath the onslaught, and Wanda couldn't spare the focus needed to deal with Elios. Elios is going to be thrilled today. It gets to eat a mysterious scarlet witch. Tony rolled his eyes at Cassandra's gloating, then quietly drew 3 arc reactors from his ring. He tilted his head toward Wanda. Quick question. Can you spare a moment to shoo off that charging dog? Wanda, straining to resist the stone's energy, only shook her head. Excellent. Tony tossed the reactors out. Then it's Iron Man's time to shine. The 3 reactors instantly spun up and assembled 3 separate armors in midair, a gold titanium alloy nanosuit, the fungus god armor, and a magic armor forged from Camartage-infused metal. Between those and Tony's vibranium suit, he had a set of standard loadouts to meet nearly any threat. The gold titanium he used when vibranium's properties were compromised. Special sound interference could deaden vibranium, so he kept the Mark 13 for those scenarios. The magic suit, Mark 14, was inscribed with Vishanti runes and integrated with staff materials. It let him cast and channel magic without losing too much armor capability. All 4 suits powered up. Jarvis, let's go. Let's handle that puppy, Tony shouted. The armors kicked on and streaked at Elios. Tony opened with a laser barrage. The beams carved through the storm, but aside from drawing its attention, they did no real damage. Sir, this storm creature lacks a solid physical body. Conventional weapons probably won't affect it, Jarvis analyzed. Is it angry? Tony banked the suit. It's angry and coming after us, Jarvis replied. But buying Wanda time is our priority. Tony led the storm away, weaving through the air. Jarvis, take Mark 12, 13, and 14 and try the new laser cannon. I'll jump into the fungus god armor and try biotech. Understood, sir. Tony's current suit disintegrated, and he dove into the fungus god armor opening beneath him. The 10 rings on the suit disgorged energy, and the armor expanded until Tony stood inside a hulking 15-meter construct. Try this, big guy, he shouted. Dozens of fungal tentacles erupted and plunged into Elios's swirling mass. But where fungus had once leached energy from living hosts, it failed utterly this time. Elios had nothing for it to absorb. It's useless, Tony muttered. He disintegrated the suit and dropped into the magic armor Jarvis had ready. Flames roared from the magic armor's boots as it lit speed runes and surged forward. The fungus god armor, meanwhile, was swallowed whole by Elios. Jarvis, ready? Tony called over the roar. Laser cannon is primed, sir. Jarvis merged nanomaterials from 2 armors into twin cannon barrels above Elios. These were Tony's latest heavy weapons, capable of breaking apart large meteors. The barrels glowed as energy-focused. Fire, Tony ordered. Speed runes flared on Tony's armor, and he streaked ahead. The twin cannons fired in perfect sync, blinding columns of light like divine judgment slammed into Elios's head. The storm creature was impaled by searing beams. A colossal explosion followed. In the conflagration, Elios inhaled deeply and drew the flames and dust into its maw. With a sudden, terrifying gulp, it swallowed the two armors that had been firing from the air, then swung back toward Tony in pursuit. "It can even eat explosions?" Tony yelled, stunned. "Jarvis, my magic's not working either. We need to run." "Sir, if you deploy more suits, the system's fault tolerance will increase," Jarvis suggested. "Good idea." Tony produced arc reactors in rapid succession from his ring. Within 30 seconds, over 100 Iron Man armors had assembled and scattered across the sky like a metallic swarm, each a decoy and a potential buffer. "Run, Jarvis, faster," Tony urged, then added with a grin even as he fled. "But don't be faster than me." Chapter 256, The Tour Group Arrives. While Tony circled at a cautious distance from Elios, on a desolate patch of the void, an orange-yellow square portal of light winked open. Deadpool slid out of the time portal backwards, still talking a mile a minute to the TVA agent beside him. "Sexy lady, tell me, are there a lot of Lokis here? Any other superheroes? Is Thor here, the one who cries into my arms in the future?" B-15, a TVA executive, followed him out with an exasperated look. "It's not what you think, Mr. Wilson. Very little survives in the void. There's a storm creature here that eats anything that drifts in." She gestured toward the ragged wind and clouds. "Maybe there were Avengers here once, but whatever was left has been consumed." "Like that weird cloud from Loki? It even eats Avengers?" Deadpool clutched his face and wailed dramatically. "Oh, my angel! This place is merciless and cold, even darker than Gotham." Leon stepped out of the portal behind the little spiders. The orange gateway snapped shut behind him. B-15 shook her head. "Mr. Wilson, are you here to look for the Avengers?" "Of course not," Deadpool said, puffing up with false sentiment. "We came to find Logan. Don't worry, I'm so touched." He struck a melodramatic pose. "Besides, Logan's got a new boyfriend in a hood." "Why would you say that?" B-15 frowned. Sorry to interrupt." Holland's spider pointed into the wasteland. "That person over there looks exactly like the Wolverine photo you showed us." Where Holland pointed, two bodies lay tangled on the ground. Beneath was Wolverine, clawed, battered, still unmistakable. A hooded figure lay draped across him. Deadpool covered his mouth with both hands. "My angel baby, I was worried about this old wolf just moments ago. Who would have thought he'd already found a new outlet?" The little spiders ignored Deadpool's theatrics and swarmed the two fallen figures. "They look unconscious. Are they okay?" Gwen asked. "Kind of a weird position to be in. Very clingy," Holland observed, oddly fascinated. Leon scanned the immediate area. "There's booster wreckage nearby, fell from the sky. If Wolverine was used as a cushion, they might have survived impact." B-15 stepped forward and scanned Wolverine with her time pad. A few tense seconds later, she nodded. "It's him. It really is Wolverine." "Excellent. I knew it. Who else would wear that yellow and black getup?" Deadpool crowed, strolling over and theatrically lifting the hooded figure off Logan. The hood fell back, revealing a man with a scruffy beard and messy hair, but still undeniably handsome. Deadpool's eyes widened to cartoonish proportions. He is." He clapped both hands to his mouth and mouthed along the syllables. "Oh my God! That man!" "What man?" Gwen asked, puzzled. "He's the sexiest man of the year," Deadpool breathed. "Every audience fantasy in one package." "Who is he?" someone pressed. "Captain?" Deadpool teased, but Holland spat an incredulous, "He's Captain America? But how? I haven't seen Cap in ages. No one talks about him anymore." "This isn't the Captain America from your world." B-15 said it with a small professional smile. "Your captain is elsewhere. That's confidential." She tapped the time pad and reopened the portal. "Since we found Wolverine, let's bring him back." The little spiders exchanged disappointed glances. They'd expected an epic fight at the end of time, not to walk out of a portal and trip over the mission objective. B-15 started shepherding them toward the spatial gateway. "You've all joined the TVA. There will be more chances to visit the void." "Wait." Leon's voice cut through the dismissal. He stiffened, having felt something far off. "Someone's using Infinity Stones in the void. Your TVA knows about this?" "Infinity Stones?" B-15 froze. "All the Infinity Stones left after the pruning are supposed to be under TVA custody. How could any still be loose here?" Leon's supervision and enhanced hearing keyed in. In the distance, he saw Tony, attempting to maneuver near the storm creature, and Wanda locked in a tense standoff with a bald woman. From their armor, powers, and stances, this Tony and Wanda were from his world. "How did they get here?" Leon murmured. The bald woman looked impossibly familiar. "Cassandra, Professor X's sister?" B-15's face went serious. "You're saying Cassandra has Infinity Stones and she's using them?" "He has two," Leon said, "the Time Stone and the Reality Stone." "This is bad." B-15's voice had dropped. "We could barely keep parity with her before. We avoided direct conflict. If she has stones now—" "Don't panic," Leon cut in. "Two stones are dangerous, but not apocalyptic unless she collects more. I'm going to pick up two people and help you deal with Cassandra on the way back." He sliced the air with emotion and vanished. "Picking up people? Who else is stuck out here? Supergirl? Flash?" Deadpool grumbled after his departure. "Don't dally, or the universe will start to reset." "At least be quiet," someone hissed. "Hey look, Wolverine's waking up." Wolverine blinked, groaned, and found himself surrounded by enthusiastic young spider heroes. His gaze cut through the swarm and landed squarely on Deadpool. The expression on his face curdled, teeth bared, his voice a low, lethal rasp. He snarled, "Fuck you, you stupid idiot!" When Leon appeared beside Tony, the billionaire was in the middle of detonating his 73rd suit of armor. Each armor explosion could briefly distract Helios and buy them a little time to get away. Tony and the Storm Beast had been playing cat and mouse for more than 10 minutes. He could swear that even when he chased those long-legged bikini models by the pool, the Beast hadn't been this relentless. Along the chase, they'd crossed paths with some of the escaped mutants. Those poor things were being eaten piecemeal by the ravenous Helios. Not even the red-skinned teleporter had escaped its maw. Luckily, they were moving away from Wanda's location, and Tony still had a healthy stock of suits. Even if Jarvis detonated one every 10 seconds, they'd probably last a couple of hours. Tony was tracking Helios on the armor's HUD and barely noticed Leon flying alongside him until Leon spoke, which made him jump. "Are you planning to feed Helios with your suits? Each of those things costs over $1 billion. Don't let Pepper find out." Tony's heart nearly leapt out of his chest. His body rocked. He steadied himself and blinked. "Leon? Can't you appear normally?" Tony snapped. "Why don't you just land from the sky and beat Helios up while you're at it?" "You always scare me like that old man Howard climbing out of his urn to drag me away." Leon shrugged. "You were watching Helios too closely." "If I wasn't, I really would have gone to see the old man before you," Tony said, his pulse finally slowing. "By age alone, you'd be the first to meet him." "How did you and Wanda end up here?" Leon asked. "Of course we came looking for you. What is this place anyway?" They swapped the last 2 minutes worth of information and hung there in the air. "Are you sure you want to take this on?" "I tried. Physical and chemical methods don't work," Tony warned. "What about magic? You haven't tried that, have you?" Tony's lips went slack at the thought. He dabbled in sorcery but knew only a handful of offensive spells. "So you're going to use magic on this thing?" "No." Leon raised his hand. "Telekinesis." He wrapped his mental power around Helios and projected an illusion. For a creature that had become part of the universe's operating mechanism, a frontal assault was folly. Manipulation was the way to go. Leon showed Helios an image of a new world collapsing into a void. The beast's head snapped toward the illusion. Its body crackled with storm and lightning, and it bolted away from them, like a dog hearing its master open a bag of food. In seconds, it had streaked thousands of meters. "Done," Leon said, patting Tony's armor. Tony gaped. "No. How did you?" "I showed it something nice. I'll go help Wanda first. You wait here a bit." Leon flew off. Wanda and Cassandra's fight had reached a white heat. Wanda had poured everything into it. Cassandra was a blood-soaked carcass of a woman. Gem energy pulsed through her like a furnace, nearly scouring her into a lump of carbon. Around them hung a giant red sphere, 1/3 the blood red of the Reality Stone, 2/3 the crimson of chaos magic. The energies of the Infinity Stone and chaos magic were in a standoff. The ground inside the sphere was shattered. Both combatants floated, suspended. Leon hovered outside long enough to take it in, then slipped into Wanda's side of the bubble. Chaos magic surged to erase him atom by atom. He opened his biofield and used world projection to isolate himself. Within that protected pocket, he was unharmed when he materialized beside Wanda. "Leave her to me," he said, and touched her arm. From his inner world, the energies of the time and reality stones poured out. Wanda's face lit with something like joy. "Leon, you're here," she breathed. She immediately began to let go of her chaos magic. She trusted him completely, and she was exhausted. Magic could replenish her body, but not her mind. Even augmented by the SS1 serum, her cognitive reserves were limited. "Rest," Leon told her. He took over, channeling the Infinity Stone's energies in place of Wanda's magic. He could have cranked up the stones and crushed Cassandra instantly, but he didn't. Instead, he gently tossed Wanda clear, then twisted his body and shot like a meteor into Cassandra's domain. Cassandra's pupils widened. She didn't have time to react. Leon's fist slammed into her lower abdomen, and everything after that became a blur. She lost consciousness. Her body erupted into a spray of blood, and the mist was sucked into the black light clone's tentacles that sprouted from Leon's wrist. As he moved, his hand snatched a sling ring tumbling through the air. "Time and reality stone, unexpected gains," he muttered, slipping the sling ring into his inner world. "Wonder if I can use these when I take them back," he said to himself. The Avengers borrowed the Infinity Stones in the main Cinemaverse to snap. If that's true, the stones the Sorcerer Supreme used should be usable too. From now on, I can start understanding the laws those stones represent. He was about to go fetch Wanda when the black light clone's Peter Tingle-like sense went off. Leon formed hand seals and performed star projection. His soul left his body and slipped into the spirit realm. In that dimension, souls tread where the living cannot. As soon as Leon entered, he saw Cassandra's spirit, cursing, vowing revenge should she return. Their eyes met. She froze for a beat, then bolted. Leon chased, punched her soul out of the spirit realm, and back in reality, the black light clone thrust a tentacle and swallowed it whole. Normally, when a soul leaves a body, control slips away. But Leon had 3 bodies now. His consciousness was split, and his soul resided in the original nucleus. Leaving his body didn't hamper his control over his others at all. "The blacklight virus really can devour souls," Leon said when his soul settled back into the original nucleus. He could feel Cassandra's soul talent being cataloged. After the clone absorbed Morland's ability to devour souls and totems, now even souls themselves can be consumed. No wonder a single Morland had upgraded the clone so dramatically. The blood of 10 Spider-Men had nudged the clone's genetic multiplier from 20 to 21. Morland's blood leapt it to 25, already 1/8 the level of the main body. What kind of surprises will Cassandra's gene-optimizing ability bring next, he wondered. With Cassandra gone, Leon flew back toward Wanda, planning to take her and Tony back to the little spider's location. He felt no remorse about what had happened to Cassandra. Based on Tony's description, Cassandra's character matched the comics, inherently malicious. When you were an enemy to someone like that, the choice was brutal. She dies or you do. Unless she never viewed you as an enemy, there would be no peaceful afterward. Chapter 258, Dutch Spider and Iron Man. "Are you sure these people down there are the staff of that so-called Time Variance Authority?" Tony asked. "It's the Authority, not the Variance Authority," Leon corrected. "And those two fighting aren't from the TVA." They had just returned to the starting point, Leon with Tony and Wanda, and saw a savage scene. Deadpool and Wolverine were rolling on the ground, locked together, driving sharp blades and claws into each other. Blood spattered and chunks of flesh flew. It looked like a tomato fighting a fried egg, juice and yolk everywhere. The little spiders and Captain America were off to the side, cheering for Wolverine. Their uniforms were ripped and torn in all directions. It was obvious they had tried to stop the fight and failed, and then picked a side. Leon, Tony, and Wanda landed nearby. "Isn't Deadpool supposed to be here to help Wolverine? Why are they fighting?" Leon asked B-15. Before B-15 could answer, the little spiders turned at the sound of his voice. When Holland Spider saw Leon, his mouth ran like a machine gun. "Leon, you're finally back! Did you find whoever used the Infinity Stones? Deadpool and Wolverine are insane." He hurried over. "After you left, Wolverine woke up, saw Deadpool, and called him an idiot. Apparently, Deadpool brought him here without permission and almost messed with his memory, so Wolverine got furious. He called Deadpool every insult he could think of, said he was a joke, said places like the Avengers and the X-Men only take people like him, that he was pathetic and unloved. I think that actually went a bit far. He said he'd never seen someone more foul-mouthed or more worthless in 200 years of living, the kid continued breathlessly. Deadpool just took it and then punched Wolverine, and they've been fighting ever since. We tried to stop them, tie them up with webs, but it didn't work. Maybe only you, Leon, can stop them. After all, you're Superman. Hey, Miss Wanda, why are you here? Wait, this armor. Holland Spider suddenly froze when he noticed Wanda and Tony standing beside Leon. His eyes went wide. He pointed at Tony. You're? That's right, I'm Iron Man. Tony flipped up his faceplate, grinning at Leon. Looks like this authority isn't bad. Every kid employee in pajamas knows who I am. Stark, sir. Holland Spider's voice cracked. He could hardly believe it. The man in front of him was Tony Stark. Mr. Stark, how could it be you? Why are you here? I'm sorry. His brain seemed to short-circuit. His eyes reddened and he choked on a sob. When had he last seen Mr. Stark? At a funeral? Watching Tony's portrait float away? Or the message Mysterio left that made everything feel lost and hollow? The wind on that desolate memory felt full of dust. Holland Spider stared at Tony, and a single tear rolled down his cheek. Tony blinked. What's wrong? He wasn't expecting tears from a TVA employee. I was just joking, kid. You're not a pajama baby. Those clothes, custom? Want me to upgrade them with nanotech? As Tony spoke, he retracted his armor into the arc reactor. Underneath, he wore a casual shirt with a Superman logo. He stepped forward and awkwardly patted Holland Spider's shoulder. He had very little practice comforting young people. Leon had never needed it, but he instinctively offered a hand. Holland Spider threw his arms around Tony and buried his face in him. Sorry, Mr. Stark. I ruined everything. Those drones are gone. Aunt May's dead. MJ and Ned forgot me. Tony felt the hug tighten as though he might disappear if Tony let go. His shoulder was damp. He patted the kid's back, feeling the weight of grief and loneliness like a planet. He glanced at Leon, asking silently what was going on. Leon met his look. This Tony was not the Tony from Holland Spider's world. In that world, Tony had sacrificed himself. Leon's face said it all. How did he die? Tony asked without really needing an answer. Leon only said one word, Thanos. The armored billionaire's expression softened. If Tony had snapped his fingers and died to Thanos, would Leon be as devastated as this kid? Leon turned away, refusing to continue the conversation. Tony rolled his eyes at him, then leaned back down and spoke to the boy. No one understood me better than myself, Tony said quietly. The other Tony would be proud of you, kid. Hearing the other Tony, Holland Spider blinked back to himself and let go. He noticed the wet mark on Tony's shoulder and tried to compose himself. Sorry, Mr. Stark. There's a Mr. Stark in my world, too. I thought, it's okay. That's not important. Tell me everything. Tony spread his hands. Of course. Holland Spider wiped his face, grinning through the last of his tears, and eagerly began to talk. Tony led him aside as the boy poured out Peter's young pains. Leon stayed with the rest of the little spiders, watching them walk away. So, your brother really is Peter One's adoptive father? Toby asked. No, Leon said. It's someone else from a parallel world. Peter's Tony already sacrificed himself. Like Ben, Garfield murmured, eyes downcast. Pretty much, Leon answered. Gwen's gaze slipped toward Wanda. Is she your girlfriend, Leon? She asked softly. Leon didn't answer right away. He looked at Wanda and, with a simple invitation, handed her the lead. Why don't you introduce yourself? Tony's first move to woo a girl, at the right moment, forced her to make a choice about the relationship, thereby pushing it to the next stage. All eyes turned to Wanda. Her mind went blank, like someone had hit a gong. She could be as composed as any veteran witch in front of Cassandra, but Leon's question snapped her right back into being a 19-year-old girl. Between us. The stares around her made Wanda want to deny it instinctively. She was like most shy girls. Standing next to the boy she liked, even an extra look would set her cheeks burning and make her want to duck her head. But then she noticed something in Gwen's expression. Concern, faint but genuine. Gwen, the blonde in the black and white jumpsuit with the cyberpunk haircut, hadn't asked out of gossip. That cooled Wanda's sudden heat. "We're not in a relationship," Wanda told Gwen, denying it, but leaving room for possibility. "Yet?" Gwen murmured, glancing at Leon and not pursuing it. She hadn't known why she'd asked in the first place. Just a sudden, inexplicable worry when she saw Leon return with a girl. New friends prompt odd curiosities. Leon was mysterious, sometimes a sorcerer, sometimes a super-strong guy in uniform, who knew what other costume he'd reveal next. Gwen shrugged off her small unease and let it go. Garfield Spider and Toby Spider linked arms and teased. "Not yet?" They exchanged knowing grins. "We get it. We all get it." Who among them hadn't been silly in school? The two Spider-Men's faces plainly said, "Don't lie. We know you'll be holding hands and strolling down the street tomorrow." Wanda wrung her hands, eyes spinning. I mean. Okay, enough guessing. Let me introduce her," Leon interrupted. "This is Wanda Maximoff, Scarlet Witch of our universe. Very powerful. She might even save your hides a few times in the future." The teasing faded from Garfield and Toby's faces, and they offered proper introductions. B-15, who knew something of the Scarlet Witch's reputation, joined in too. Even Deadpool, despite being skewered in the waist by Wolverine and impaled elsewhere, managed a half raise of his hand. He began breathlessly. "I am the Marvel Savior." Wolverine's claws sank into Deadpool's skull. "Savior? You can't even save yourself." They resumed their chaotic, slapstick bloodbath. Sometimes it looked like a fatal gash, sometimes a knife pulled from a kidney with a theatrical spray of crimson. Everyone kept a distance, more than 10 meters, watching two kinds of chaos. On one side, camaraderie, on the other, a very messy duel. Before any more introductions could happen, Captain America stepped forward with a hard look. "I want this clear. Are you absolutely sure you killed Cassandra?" "We, the survivors who fought her, failed more times than I can count," Leon said. "Every time we thought we'd won. Even when we cut off that egg-shaped head, she would laugh and come back like it meant nothing. We lost Magneto, Punisher, Quicksilver. Damn it. We didn't die at Elios's hands. We were going to die at hers." Captain America's voice was fierce. "Are you sure, absolutely sure, that that pervert with her head full of poison is dead?" "My language is rough," Leon said with a raised eyebrow. "But yes, Cassandra is dead. Not even her soul remains." "Not even her soul," Captain America repeated, and something relieved and vindictive lit up his face. Then he exploded, cursing, laughing, bent over with raucous glee. Fuck Cassandra, that cold-hearted, nut-headed monster." He laughed so hard he gasped. "She's finally dead. If she'd still been alive, she would have done unmentionable things to me. Now she can burn and I'll piss on the flames and dance on her charred body." Bursting laughter followed the rant. People stepped back even further. Deadpool, mid-battle, paused to gape. "This place makes people go off the deep end," he said, grimacing. "You think I've got a mouth? He's on another level." Wolverine shot Captain America a few judging looks, then resumed skewering Deadpool. "If it weren't for you," he muttered, "would I even be here?" Captain America finally calmed, breathing hard, hunched over. "I'm not done," he said, the anger returning. "Her minions remain. I'm going to deal with them." "They're gone," Tony said conversationally, looking up from where he'd been talking with Holland's Spider. "Completely devoured by Elios. I saw it." Captain America hesitated. "The base people are dead," he said slowly, "but she still had a squad of Deadpools outside. I have to." "A squad of Deadpools?" the two little spiders cried. "One Deadpool was bad enough. What did a whole army mean?" "I'm going to beat them all up," Captain America said, tugging at his coarse wrap. "If I don't, I'll never stop feeling this rage. I'm leaving now." "Wait, I'll send you," Leon said abruptly. With a flick of his hand, he drew a glowing golden circle in the air, a portal. Through the shimmering gateway Leon conjured, 100 red-suited Deadpools stood on the other side, guns and knives at the ready. "Go," Leon said. "We'll be cheering from here." Captain America froze. No sane person looked for Deadpool. If you beat them, they retaliated. If you didn't, the resentment remained. He was ready to retreat. TVA people made him uneasy, but everyone was watching. Leon urged him on. On the other side, at Leon's nod, the Deadpool squad sprang to life, drawing weapons with a metallic clatter. "Oh, Captain America versus Deadpool Corps. Pause! The nearest Deadpool shouted back, to Wolverine's hand still latched on his throat. He wriggled free, excited. "It's starting!" "He's going to yell the line, right?" Deadpool said, eyes blazing. Wolverine stabbed him in the butt and hissed, "What line?" "Of course," Deadpool cried in pain, turning to the portal expectantly. The besieged man took a breath. Instead of "Avengers, assemble," he blurted, reluctantly and oddly, "Flame on." Instantly he burst into flame, his whole body consumed by roaring fire. He took off, a flaming figure rocketing toward the Deadpool horde. Then, just short of the portal, he banked and flew up into the sky. "Sorry, guys," his voice trailed from above, oddly matter-of-fact. "I just remembered I should tell the other survivors Cassandra's dead. I'll come back to kick the Deadpool's asses later." He vanished into the horizon as a blazing dot. Everyone stared, stunned. Those who'd expected the familiar Captain America were speechless. Deadpool, who had been gearing up to shout the heroic line, looked completely dumbfounded. Leon arched an eyebrow. Not Captain America, Johnny Storm, the Human Torch? He'd thought he was dealing with a crazed captain, making a break for it. Instead, it was Johnny, the actor who, in other worlds, had played both Captain America and the Human Torch. The multiverse, it seemed, had brought overlapping actors and personas. Leon let the flying man go, inwardly hoping a Doom in a suit wouldn't show up next. "Shit, it's Johnny. That's why he was cussing so much," Deadpool muttered, still gaping at the empty sky. Chapter 260, Deadpool Legion. "Johnny wants to mess with us?" A skull tumbled through the portal. It wore a tattered Deadpool mask. An oxidized cervical vertebra dangled beneath it like a grotesque scarf. Its bulging eyes took in the Human Torch's exhaust, and it howled. "Damn it, that kid ran off after talking trash. He's shameless even by our standards. We have to catch him and hand him over to Tigress Cassandra. She'll have him for dinner." The skull Deadpool, Deadhead, screamed, his voice ricocheting back toward the other side of the portal. From the other end, an enthusiastic chorus answered. A child-sized Deadpool piped up, "We should smear honey on his donut so Cassandra keeps licking him, front to the inside." "Oh, Kid Deadpool, I love that idea." More and more Deadpools surged toward the portal, dual katanas and pistols in hand. Voluptuous female Deadpools, a Golden Age Deadpool in a gas mask, Cowboy Deadpool, Baby Deadpool, Ronin Deadpool, Zenpool. Hundreds of scarlet-clad lunatics flowed through the doorway like escapees from an asylum. "Shit, he must have run far," one muttered. "Maybe we follow him to find any survivors. Tell them ghost stories all night." "Shouldn't we tell Cassandra first if we find survivors? She commands a price." "Fine, tell Cassandra first, then we tell ghost stories." "Let's go. Let's poke their donuts." For a moment, one Deadpool blinked, as if remembering there were other priorities. He squinted at Leon and the others. Deadpools were creatures of very small worlds. Outside their own little obsessions, they didn't care much for anything else. "Wait, look behind that guy pretending to be Superman. That's Peter." "Peter? Peter? Where's Peter? Fuck. There's Peter. 1, 2, 3. Shit, 3 of them. My favorite Peter is here." The murderous glint behind their masks sharpened into something almost tender. This was Peter. Garfield felt his scalp prickle under the mask as hundreds of red-suited faces turned toward them. "I have a bad feeling," he whispered. "Me too," Toby echoed. The two of them took a trembling step back and hid behind Leon. "How can there be so many Deadpools? Leon, please don't let them come over," Garfield pleaded. Across the portal, stunned for a beat by the sudden jackpot, the Deadpools surged like a pack unleashed. They screamed and clawed and pushed. They drew knives and chopped at anyone blocking their way, shedding limbs in the scramble, anything to be first through the portal to embrace their beloved Peters. Deadhead's eye sockets bloomed with crude hearts as he dove straight for Peter. "Peter, I'm coming!" "What the?" Garfield spat. "Why are all the Deadpools looking at us like perverts?" He wrapped his arms around Leon's waist from behind, panicked. "Think of something, Leon, or we're going to get French-kissed by a horde of Deadpools." Toby, no better with words, grabbed Leon too. "You guys," Wanda's eyes widened beside them. "Let's go," Gwen murmured, pulling Wanda back. The scene on the other side was too gruesome to watch. "Deadpool! It's Deadpool!" Holland's voice quivered. He dove behind the one person he trusted most, Tony. "Mr. Stark, save me!" "What? Are Deadpools scary?" Tony frowned, off balance. "Every Deadpool has their own Peter. Peter is like a legendary figure in every Deadpool's world," Leon explained. "They're obsessed." He glanced at the two pairs of hands clinging to him. "But do you have to be so dramatic?" If 100 people wanted to slather wet kisses on your face, press grimy handprints into you, and even paw at your spider eggs, and all of them smelled like garlic and madness, would you be okay with that, Leon? Garfield screamed, squeezing tighter as if to stop Leon from wriggling free. If you wouldn't, then let's all join in. I guarantee they'll like Superman too, Garfield added, absurdly hopeful. All right, Peter, stop talking. I'm already grossed out just listening. Leon's smile was brittle. He snapped a hand and closed the portal. Dozens of hands and feet that had already reached through were severed in an instant. Then he tilted his head and fired heat vision, blasting the diving deadhead out of the sky. The skulled Deadpool fell, howling Peter's name as if dying for love, tragic, ridiculous, before collapsing. Even Tony, no stranger to chaos, felt a cold knot of unease. The Peters exhaled. They pulled off their masks and wiped sweat from their brows. Thanks, Leon. Again, Garfield said, finally unclasping his arms. No problem. Leon's smile was tired but calm. Far away, he could hear it in the distant rumble. A swarm of motorcycles was already revving. Hundreds of Deadpools were massing, engines screaming as they charged straight for their position. On the battlefield of lust and lunacy, Deadpool was unbeatable. Little Peter thought he could run and drag others with him? Impossible. Leon had already set up recording equipment. He was going to catch the whole thing when the riot of red reached them. Peter! A voice howled from the chaos. A full-bodied Deadpool squirming in Wolverine's arms being prodded mercilessly. The Peters shivered. The main-bodied Deadpool kept howling. My kiss smells like garlic. That's cruel. My heart! Logan's claws slid against the Deadpool's throat, cutting off the scream. It should be, he said flatly. Fuck! Can't you let me speak to my dear Peter? The Deadpool protested, jabbing Logan at the waist with a tiny baby knife. The Peters just stared, horrified. Garfield pointed to his cheek, lowering his voice. My face still stinks. Saying it smells like garlic is being polite. It smells like a trash can. Gwen and Wanda edged a little farther away. The stench of the thought, the madness of it all, pushed them out of the tight circle.